Okay, all right.
All right, everybody, good evening. Welcome to the Parish Council meeting at Hilton on Monday the 1st of October. First item on the agenda is to receive any apologies for absence and declarations of interest. The first apology we have is from Kieran, and the second apology we have is from Sharon, who's going to join us later, she hopes. The third apology is from Councillor Ian Butler. Is that the agenda?
Sorry.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's it, isn't it? I think. Right, the next item on the agenda is that we close the Parish Council meeting and open to members of the public. Any members of the public like to speak at this point? Ken?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. With regard to 3.2, the traffic monitoring, you were obviously there at the meeting that we had with the police, etc. And I'm just wondering if you have any response to what's been going on, because it seems as though there's an awful lot of interesting stuff coming out of that from that meeting, and there's been several emails floating around which I just wondered if you've got a response to those emails, and also if we ought to consider having a permanent person from the Parish Council at those meetings, so that obviously we're singing from the same song sheet, which I think is probably something that we all want to do, rather than lose the momentum, because speeding's still a big problem and we need to get on top of that. And also, if there's any problems with the council providing somebody like that, then obviously we will then feed back to the council, and you know, we just need to have that liaison between us so that we don't lose the momentum, because it's far too important for us to not have that. I hope you agree with that. I'm sure you do, because you did at the meeting.
Yeah, I did.
You know, we just want to sort of bring it up, really.
I think that's why it's on the agenda this evening.
Great.
Andy?
Yeah, a couple of questions. One regarding 5.6, purchase of a new laptop. Can I just ask, is the laptop absolutely broken? Has it been to a repairer to try and fix it? I know you had some problems connecting to the router when you had your router changed, but is it irreparable? Is it unserviceable?
It's extremely slow. It has very little memory. I have problems with memory all the time, and I still can't get it connected to our current.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you have any professional, you can take to Antec or somebody that can look at it, because laptops do slow down in their lives. You can revitalise them by reformatting and things. I just think before spending £500 to actually have a go at going, I'm happy to have a look. I've got a lot of experience with laptops and PCs for the many years, rather than paying £500 to try and get the one going that's going.
We'll discuss that when it comes up on the
And just sort of subsequent to that, did a quick calculation looking at all these 5.1 down agenda items. A quick back of the fact packet calculation, it appears we're spending well over a quarter of all of our Precept on admin, which isn't obviously being used for things, you know, tangible things in the village. That seems to be a huge amount of a percentage of anybody's income being spent on admin. I'm just a little bit concerned that there seems to be an awful lot happening there, and we could perhaps spend some of that money a little bit more efficiently. Any comment?
I can't see how it's a quarter of the Precept.
Can I comment?
Yeah, please do.
In the nearly 6 years I've been parish clerk, I don't think, apart from one training course, I've had any admin or any training spent on making my job easier. So whilst it might seem a lot in this one go, over the years that I've been doing this job, I don't think there's been very much spent on my training.
It wasn't particularly that, Joe. It was looking at staff costs plus all this training and the associations is well over £8,000.
Most of it is training for this particular qualification.
Okay, right. I just want to make the point. I think £8,000 a year out of 27 Precept is a lot of money.
as it always has been. The precept is a figure. There are 1, 2, 3 elements that are fixed, more or less, which is the cost of the clerk, which we have to have a clerk, and there is a salary associated with that, which is governed by a national pay scale. There is the cost of the maintenance of the green, which we have to make sure is to
Yeah, I'm
standard.
not covering those in those costs.
So there is little within the precept that is not almost, if you like, predetermined before we go into any one year. As has always been the case with a parish council, that has to have a clerk by requirement.
Wants to have a clerk.
Sorry?
Wants to have a clerk.
Yeah. Wants to have.
They weren't always paid.
There are national guidelines on salaries for clerks, which we have to adhere to. As
Okay.
it was in the days when you were both on the parish council, and as will continue throughout whilst this country decides that we should have parish councils governing at this level of local authority. Sadly, it is a cost, and it's one we have to bear. Right, because Joe is the only person that receives, or the clerk is the only person that is paid from the parish council, the rest is purely voluntary. Any other comments from the public? Margaret?
Please. When you discuss 4.5 pavilion, would you indicate, please, how it came about that the parish councils are no longer exempt from the planning application?
I'll tell you now, Huntingdon District Council wrote back to us and said you now have to pay half,
Why did they say that?
because they've changed their rules.
Ah, usual thing. Okay. Winter gritting. Who is going to be the contact for winter gritting when that is needed?
That will be discussed when it comes up on the agenda.
Can you make sure that that person is named at the meeting, please?
I don't know, depends if anybody accepts forward.
Well,
Can't force
one would
anybody to do
expect them to
anything.
do so. What would you do if nobody volunteers? What happens to the winter gritting in that
I
situation?
bet we'll discuss it when it comes to the agenda.
Right.
Right.
Finally, 5.2 regarding my several requests. Do you want to ask me some questions when you get to that point?
If there are questions to ask, we will ask you
Right.
questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other members of the public?
Yeah,
I don't
Kieran
know.
Caulfield. Kieran Caulfield.
Hello, Kieran.
Hi. Just on 5.1, so
Oh, yes.
this is the project that I've been involved in and began to ramp up the heat on A14, with the Environment Agency, etc. involved. Are we going to discuss this as part of the meeting?
Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah, and obviously if we've got questions, we'll ask you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, without further ado, we'll close the public section and we'll go back to the agenda. Item 2 is to approve minutes of the Parish Council held on the 3rd of September. I wasn't here on the 3rd of September. So, yes. So, can we like to propose that they're accepted?
We'll give the chance to comment. Okay, I will propose that they're signed as a true record.
I'll second
Second
that.
Thank you.
And all those who would... Thank you very much. Yeah, Ian and me and Sharon.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Right, matters arise, item 3, matters arising or carried forward from the last meeting for discussion and decision. So there was talk at the last meeting about the, I said flooring, but it's the, well, for want of a better word, then flooring in the playground. Surface would be a better description, wouldn't it?
Operated service.
Yes. Anything else?
Unbelievable.
I have samples if anyone wants to see them. I
Absolutely
couldn't
unbelievable.
believe what they were charging for like removal and
No.
things. It seems like surely we need to get quotes from other people
I
because
think so.
that's ridiculous.
It is. And sowing grass.
Yeah.
So everybody's aware, the first option was eco-tumbling
I
surfacing,
don't like that.
which is that one, and that would cost
That comes in.
£800 plus VAT. Wet poor surfacing, £14,625.
Luckily they said that's not suitable for our trees.
But it is Rolls Royce.
Yes.
And the safety grass matting surface, which is that one, which is £10,998.95. And that includes the digging out of the surfaces, the existing surfaces. The first option doesn't require any stone bases. It can be laid on top of the hard flat surface that's already there. The second option, well, it's not the one they recommend anymore. And the third option is the one which is the most cost-effective surface in terms of maintenance, but of course would have to remove most of the existing surface. So in this case, it becomes quite expensive. We have turfed the area rather than topsoil and seeded so the grass would grow better through the mats. If soil and seeding is done, it could mean that the site becomes quite boggy and the honeycomb holes in the mats become mud baths.
I'm not sure if they're recommending that either, really. I'm not
Well, yeah, but it's
but
just
they're
sort of,
charging £4,500 to dig up the current piles, which
And are they suggesting putting that fake grass down?
that's one of the options.
yeah, that's
Is that
option
the
three.
last
That's
one?
one, yeah.
Even though they're saying that's going to get foggy then? So what's the, what is this? If soil, I mean honeycomb holes in the mats become mud baths, what's the honeycomb?
That's that grass. Well, no, I think there's mats that go under the actual grass. I think, you know, like when you put on a driveway that holds the gravel and stuff and that sort of thing, I think
So
that
not
goes
option-
under.
The honey,
No,
No,
I thought they were
honeycomb.
those, and then that comes
I
up.
thought they were just talking about putting those plastic honeycomb shapes in the actual grass,
They
not the
haven't.
fake grass.
It's not very clear. is
It
it?
talks about seeding, doesn't it?
I think I think there's both options, and that's why they've sent me a sample of the matting as well, because that, obviously that's, you don't have to wait for it to grow up through. So you do know.
So they're suggesting putting the honeycomb mat down to stop the bogginess and then just laying fake grass on the top?
No, I don't think that's what's
No,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
No,
What do you think?
I didn't follow that.
I don't think that's relevant to
No,
it.
I'm
No.
not sure that is either.
Yeah.
I think that's grass samples just to say it'll look like grass. I think what they're
Yeah.
actually saying it is the honeycomb structure you put
I
down and
think
grass
she
goes
did,
through and across it.
well, when I met her, she did talk about fake grass as well, coming up.
Right.
Because it says here,
Use-
we assume we'll turf the
Turf
area
area.
rather than topsoil and
Ah,
seed.
but it's grass mats.
Yeah, I see that.
So is it grass mats under the thing, and then the honeycomb and seed around it?
Honeycomb, if you got that. It wouldn't work either.
No.
Those honeycombs
So, like,
are just
grow
like
through
plastic,
Yeah.
just plastic mats that are under the grass, aren't they, basically?
Yeah.
It's enormously expensive just to get the floor done.
All of them are horrendously expensive.
Yeah, yeah, and then just think to yourself, if you're going to spend that kind of money,
It's a
why
sticky
not
glass
do-
anyway, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Mm.
why not do something more bolder, more ambitious? And or see if there's a sufficient volunteer group in the village that will at least do some of the work.
I do agree with you there, and this is unbelievable cost.
You know, you could, well, let's say, a bunch of people will volunteer to remove what's there, some honeycomb mats and seeded the whole area ourselves.
And could they then come and inspect it and confirm that it's suitable, so it's health and safety thing? I don't know, what do you think?
No, I was just looking at, I'm trying to think.
I'm assuming there's other
Weed around
companies that
costs.
do similar things as well, rather than Wicksteed. I think Wicksteed are going to be the most expensive, aren't they?
They do tend to be.
Yeah, there's Playdale, and I think we're all Playdale, I don't know.
Would it be worth us trying over this month and reporting back in to see if we can find any other companies?
Yeah.
I have to say, I was there last week and it is really dangerous at the
Yes,
moment.
it is.
Yes.
And that's when it's been dry.
And there's leaves everywhere, so I know all the trees have been taken back, but there's still
It's
really
very
slippy.
slippery.
I mean, I do wonder whether it's worthwhile approaching Craig Sutherland.
I'm just putting it all up.
Well, I'm sure he could take out what's there currently an awful lot cheaper than that. And has he been involved in play areas elsewhere? And has he seen examples of other material being put down? You know, he may be able to source that grass matting stuff and put that down, for example.
The other thing I thought about when you're talking about maybe considering doing more than just the surface is, I don't know if you've looked into this in the past with the Parish Council, but Mick George do quite a lot of community funding applications that you can apply for. And I know it's something we've thought of for the cycle pass, because I know that's another option, but that's another, I think we've missed, there's a September deadline, but they do it 4 times a year. So there are options to look into getting funding and actually replacing more than just the surface.
I do
So
agree
it
with
seemed
you.
like a lot of money to spend to replace the surface and leave the really old equipment there.
Yeah. I mean, the police organisations like Tesco likewise have a fund. Sorry.
When we spoke about Playparks recently, we spoke about Hemmingford. Wasn't someone going to visit Hemmingford?
That Hemmingford have got the wet paw.
They've got the work for it. Do they know who did theirs?
No.
Might be worth asking who did theirs and what they paid for it.
Yeah, the only thing is that if Wicksteeds are to be believed, that's not going to solve our problem of slippery surface. Because
Yeah.
That's
But it might be
So they
a
might
contact
do
and you could suggest.
I did go back to them, but I haven't had a response from Hemmingford.
Although I did visit Hemmingford whilst it was raining in the early part of the summer, and I tried to sit, but I couldn't.
Right. I mean, when the lady that I met at the park last week, she said that because of the trees and stuff, it would still be slippery, but I don't know what difference that makes.
Have to crowdfund a whole new.
Well, I think, bearing in mind a few people have hurt themselves in that park, we're either going to have to put together, I don't mind getting involved in it at all, a rapid working group to scrub those tiles or close the park. Because
I almost
someone
think
is
it would be
going
less dangerous if the tiles were removed and there was nothing.
I
than
think
the tiles
that's
being
again
there.
against health and safety. I think we're
Oh, yes,
responsible
the
for
falling
putting
down.
some sort of flooring
I'm just thinking of
down.
slipping, I completely forgot about the actual purpose of the tiles.
Yeah, which is not fit for purpose.
We have used a pressure wash in the past,
Yeah.
which did give temporary relief.
Is it worth doing that again?
Well, I mean, the period of relief was not long.
Wasn't it?
No, we're talking 6 or 8 weeks. I
Oh.
think.
You come that thought and then
Yeah, so they're just going to come
Playboard doing
We
everything.
put anti-alcohol
Yeah.
as well.
We did, yes. I'm not too sure whether that did any good at all.
Should we
And
close
it's
it?
been scrubbed with brooms
Yeah.
and water and brooms in the past, isn't it?
So if you agree it's not fit for purpose as it is right now,
Well,
We
if
have
a child
closed it
hurts-
before, haven't we?
Yeah, if a child hurts itself, then we've
Yeah.
discussed it in the meeting now.
I mean, as Peter said, we have closed it in the past, so we can do so again, but that doesn't solve the problem.
No, we need to close it with a view of what we're doing and how long it's going to be closed to reopen rather than just close it
Just close it.
indefinitely.
I
Because
agree.
it seems a shame to.
Well, could we get some, I mean, should we all try and just get some quotes in for next month?
Figure. Yeah, I remember.
Ah,
Just through the chair, if it's appropriate terminology. Is the material failing, or is it simply just that it's slippy?
It's,
Good question.
I think it's past its
think
use
the,
by date and how
Mats
long the
have
mats.
become probably quite saturated with all the algae and this.
So is it possible to consider examining putting down a coating on top of the mat, such as an equivalent to non-slip paint? But I'm familiar with using that on boats all the time.
Bit cheaper option.
Good idea.
Yeah.
And you can get that as a spray on, so it's easy to apply and easy to renew.
Is it porous? Won't it?
Yes.
Really?
Well, if you're applying it just to the matting area, if I don't go into the play park often, but I've seen a similar solution where on that hexagonal type matting, much like a doormat, where that's been used down in the rubberized form, and then just apply that to the top of that. Might be an option. If the material itself isn't failing, if it's simply just grip.
I would think it could be a temporary measure, but I think the material is failing. Like there's, when Wicksteed said there was loads of cracks between it, and some of it's lifting up and things like that. So I think ultimately the material is failing. Is that what they?
Is that what it said in there?
It's not that just that it's slippy, was it?
They were lifting, weren't they? They were lifting under.
Some of them are. all sorts of angles.
And we're not allowed just to put wood chip down in there?
No.
Because you can get glass and chip.
There's a, through the winter
There's an
observation. Worth discussing, finding out more about it.
Well, we've got Glenn here.
So you
cutting
mentioned-
down trees, isn't it?
You mentioned the formation of a quick working group to have a look at this over the next month.
And then see if we can just get some quotes from different companies and maybe look at some funding ideas as
Yeah.
well.
And look at the non-slip paint.
And
option
non-slip
that's
paint.
used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even not a paint, just a resin with sand,
Yeah.
which
Something to give some temporary.
Do you have a product name? Or do I just go down to Chandler and go non-slip paint for those?
yeah, that's
Okay.
there's numerous different types. I can't recall what we were using.
Thank you for that suggestion. So are you happy to move that forward, Sarah?
Yeah.
Who will help, Sarah?
Yes, please. And not the next one, so we'll find it. And then we'll talk about it. That's just the agent. I'm doing something else.
So can I just be clear?
Sorry.
So we're not closing the park for now, we're going to clean it.
Well, I
Should
guess
we
let's have a
put-
look and make a decision off the back of that.
Should we put a sign outside of them?
I think there might need to be a sign at least so people have fair warning.
Warnings, it's slippery.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to stop children running into the park, isn't it?
And old men falling over.
And old people.
Yeah.
And do you want me to also look at getting some more quotes? from-
Yeah.
And we'll have a look at some quotes as well. See if we can find something. And funding. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can pitch in to some extent. But it's
Yes, please.
You also have that volunteer group as well, who could ask whether they could go and scrub it.
Yeah,
It'll give us another month. So which,
That's no idea, I'll come have a look.
Yeah.
I'll try scrubbing a square or two.
Just leave it around.
Is there a, is there a group of
Well,
volunteers
Anne and
that
Rob, well, it was Anne and Justice. You group of volunteers that Anne had?
it's not been kind of maintained particularly strongly, but happy to have a go.
Yeah.
well, I can give it a go. No
Yeah.
problem with
Well, the liaison it.
that. Yeah, sure.
Send me around.
To these councils.
And you're,
We
okay,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Available. Whatever that is.
Excuse me. Okay, so thank you. And we look forward to, and I guess if it needs to be closed, would be my suggestion. It's dangerous.
But we're going to sign up to go to.
Whilst we try and do some urgent thing on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
3.2 is update traffic monitoring speed watch volunteers required. I wasn't at the last meeting, I apologise, I think there was something read out that I'd given you a report on. Andy, I'm going to ask you a question. I believe you have met with the police officer who is going to be using, doing some HGV monitoring.
Yes, Sam.
Yes. Would you like to share with us what?
Yes, very nice.
Discuss that at that meeting.
Very nice and very helpful. Lives in the village, lives quite close to Prince of Wales, and obviously is aware of the traffic problem through the village. He's probationary PC, so the idea from Sergeant Priestley was to give him a project as part of his sort of things they do in their probationary period, and he volunteered for that and has agreed to do a number of things. One is to try and when his shifts allow, he's a response officer, so his role is response across the whole district. Therefore, he gets dragged around doing obviously reactive type activities within the constraints of when he might have free time, and certainly when he has night shifts, he will try and get back here earlier or leave later, and then do some checks and give out tickets. Unfortunately, this last week when he was doing it, he got dragged around the county and couldn't do it, but he intends to carry on doing that. He's also informed, he's also asked his traffic colleagues to do more shifts, I guess, if they can, coming through the village during there. So this will be the highways traffic officers doing that. He's also asked the county council for better signs. He thinks the signage for the weight limit obviously isn't as good as it could be, so he's written a letter to the county council, and he will continue to do that. So I think he's been very proactive. There was a camera van in the village last week. I don't know if it was of his, but I think they are all trying very hard to put more resources towards us.
Did you get any joy of a data logger?
No, they can't find them. They don't believe they're there. There are 18 of them in a cupboard. I know they're there, but they can't find them. So I might pursue that one a bit again to try and find it.
But with Mick George, you had the loan of a data logger in the village.
Yeah, 3 times. We did three consecutive weeks in 3 different locations.
And they showed some interesting figures.
They showed pretty consistent across the 3 weeks. We get something like 40,000 vehicles through a week. We have about 25, up to 25 HCVs or large vehicles infringing per night. And the average speeding going south, the most southerly data logger, the average speeding was over 50% of all vehicles over a 7-day period over the ACPO limit, which is extraordinary, isn't it?
Top speed?
95, over 90 on each of those 3 weeks at some point.
And only last night, Peter, I came through the village. I came from Clare's, come out Church End, turned onto Potton Road. I was doing about 26, 27 miles an hour because I hadn't actually built up speed. I had a young girl come up behind me. She overtook me before she got to the brow of the bank, so she couldn't have seen what was coming. She overtook me. It just flashed me lights because I thought she was being stupid. She was probably doing 50 miles an hour by then. She slammed her anchors on and stopped by the width restriction by Chapel Close. She then proceeded on for about 50 yards, 20 miles an hour, and then shot off again. Got the registration number. I've actually spoken to young Sam today, and he's done a PNC check. She's a local person, and he's actually going to go around and speak to her about it. And I think that's probably another example of, if we see it, then, you know, with the liaison person that will be liaising with Hatton when we do it, then we can get something, we can get people thinking, you know, it's a place not to speed, because if you do, somebody's going to see it and you're going to get caught for it.
You want the spreading around.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, I did mention to Sam that we were thinking of putting, having some volunteers going out and sitting and photographing, videoing and logging lorries infringing that. He was very supportive. I thought it might be no, leave it to us, but he said, no, anything you can get, let us have. So he was supportive of us actually taking some actions ourselves on recording that.
Priestley was against that, wasn't he?
He was, but Sam was very much for it. So.
What's his surname?
Oh,
Palmer.
Palmer, yeah.
So that's one side of the coin, as we talked about, as I let you know last time, this was a local initiative, or an initiative. Sorry, I'm not being particularly well today. It's been an initiative by Sergeant Priestley to get these, if you like, apprentice policemen going through their 2-year training to do this on a rotating basis. And Sam was the first person that that he thought of, and that had been accepted by his superiors to do that. So that is starting. The other side of the coin is that they would like us to watch periods through the village. Now, obviously, Speedwatch needs volunteers. Okay? So that is why it is on the agenda this evening. We have to try and get some volunteers to do some Speedwatch sessions. The officer suggested that this could be over a 2-week period to start with. So.
Have we got the machinery to do it with now then? Is that different to
no,
what
it's
you're
different
asking?
to what Andy's talking about. The data logger is something that goes up and logs
everything.
Data.
Yes.
Logs the traffic going through. It does this thing of capturing speeds and limits.
Yeah.
So.
Have we been given specific criteria for Speedwatch, or is it just up to us to organise the dates, times, how long, when
We would
do
have.
it?
Once we know we've got a team that want to do it, and we'll get a meeting with Sergeant Priestley. They're going to supply the equipment, and we can talk about how long these sessions are to be for, and how many within a 2-week period they'd be looking to, that they would like. It's about, despite the fact that they've got the lots of evidence from the data logger and from other surveys that have been done in the past, wants a revised 2-week speed watch. High profile, yeah, so you're not hiding behind a bush, you're wearing a high-vis jacket, and people are aware that that is what you're doing.
What was his reasoning for that? Sorry, I'm
Up-to-date
just...
information, just so he can produce it and present it and push it forward. This is to try and get what Sam's been talking about, of getting more police awareness of the issue in Hilton.
And how many volunteers are we after? I presume you just put the website with it.
He has asked, sorry, I was just going to say, he has asked for us to do it in October because he's going to, he can, the 2nd of November there's a force-wide operation aimed at road safety. I've already highlighted Hilton to the superintendent who's responsible for running the operation. So if we can compile data in October, then we can take it to that.
Prior to the beginning of November, so it would be sort of like next week, wouldn't it?
Kieran?
What is the end goal?
It's the issues in Hilton are this continued amount of speeding that goes through the village. That's one goal, and the other goal is to look at the HGVs that come through in breach of the nighttime ban.
Okay, yeah, that's different.
So those are
myself.
two.
But what is the goal? So if we go back after this 2-week period with
They
data,
may consider higher levels of enforcement, because we can't enforce anybody who's tracked on a camera.
No, I've done volunteer before in other villages.
But so the police are saying they want more data now, so that they can he can take it to people, because their resources are thinly spread.
Absolutely. But will this lead to us having a speed camera? Is it?
But the next step would be, I think, that from what you said, would be enforcement.
There won't be a speed camera.
There won't be a speed, they're too expensive
Because
and we don't qualify.
They actually are very expensive to monitor, and the police force don't get the revenue from them. It goes straight back to government.
He wanted us to identify repeat errant drivers, like Ken did yesterday, and report them, and then they will go and doorstep them and give them a jolly good telling off. And then, as you said, try and mount more. So the other thing I didn't mention, that Sam hasn't been trained on the laser speed gun yet. It's part of his training that's coming through. As soon as he is, he will mount some laser speed gun sessions in the village during the day at those spots. But they will. Part of the speed watch was to identify actual cars' registration numbers that they can go and visit and reprimand.
Yes.
My understanding is that if we applied for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, we wouldn't get it, because I don't really think it's sufficiently residential.
Margaret, we can't enforce 30 miles.
That's the next point I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say next. You jumped the gun. Fine. Well done.
Joe, I was waiting for it. Margaret brought that up, and I've heard that as well. We're not. But I did ask, could we ask County Council whether we could do a voluntary 20-mile-an-hour sign, like we've got the Mick George ones around, because I do 20 all the way through. I bet a number of the villagers do 20, because Mick George lorries do, so you tend to follow suit. But when these idiots overtake you, or rev, but if we had a few voluntary 20-mile-an-hour signs.
They are entitled to overtake you.
That's
the problem. You do
but Mick George is doing it, and we shouldn't have agreed to allow him to do it.
I think it's a bit different with a larger lorry, but that's the worry with the car and you might create
volunteers for speed.
Can I just go back to my question, the end goal? So if we go and do this 2-week period and go back with this data, and that purely supports the fact that we have speeders in the village, great. We've got a flag to wave, but that's ultimately of little use if, as we know, the resource is finite. Do we have an option to go to them and say, we want a kit that we can use any time during the year and we can keep feeding you back data and you can keep going and knocking on doors?
The
Because
discussions
it's only
haven't
2
gone
weeks.
that far.
Well, he did say, I asked him all those questions, how long, what numbers, and he came back and said at the meeting, he said, the longer we can have a speedwatch presence, the better. The more speedwatch activity, the more we can do over a longer period of time. So he would support a permanent speedwatch like we did for 3 years from 2000 and what it was.
And did that make a lot of difference?
We think it had a huge reduction in repeat offenders, but then they changed the way Speedwatch ran, and at which point we said we're not going to do this anymore because they've changed all the criteria of how it ran, which is being very overt. You have to put a sign halfway up the road for the driver to come along, so they immediately know round the corner is a Speedwatch session. What are you going to do? You're going to slow down, aren't you? So actually, we weren't collecting useful data. It wasn't accurate.
So is this what we're going to be doing in this?
This is my fear.
But is not what we discussed before part of it, that the data is going to help us with an application for funding for a permanent monitor? I don't know what the permanent monitor is going to help with the
That is
goals
not
still.
what Priestley was suggesting at that.
The point about all this, I've been trying about traffic for 40 years.
Yeah.
And the point is, we've been polite, we've done what we were asked to do, we've provided data and everything. Where are we? We're still at it, we still haven't really got a result. So sooner or later, we're going to have to start getting a bit radical and
Margaret,
putting our feet down.
Can I just assure you of one thing? You will never push a police officer of any rank above sergeant to do anything unless you've got reams of paper so thick that they can just see it. And
I'm
you
not
won't.
talking about
this
the
is what I
police,
said.
It's highways,
Ultimately, they're the ones. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's the police.
I think we should try everything.
Yes,
honestly.
We do have to try everything.
It also
I'll
needs to be
volunteer.
spread further, isn't it?
I'll volunteer to go.
Thank you. Kieran and Paul are volunteering. Sorry, Graham, you can
Just
say.
put it in there, because other people might want to.
Yeah, and you've got the volunteer group as well.
Yes.
So
So
please could you
it needs to be off.
we need to
We
get it
need the
done.
list by next week, I reckon. Because you're talking about a 2-week period before the end of
How
beginning of
many
November.
people in each session?
How many do you have? 3?
Two minimum.
Two.
You need for safety purposes, preferably 3.
But I thought the idea was that we got a list of numbers and then we would meet with the sergeant who would then tell us what he wanted us to do. Is that what you said?
Is that what you just said?
Well, that's what you said.
I can say that's
You did.
Sounds like a good idea anyway.
Sorry.
But he wants it done this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will.
I thought he was going to provide the stuff when we knew that we had a
Can we put
approved
something on the
volunteers.
internet, maybe post it on the notice board, because not everyone looks at the website.
So we've got the start of the list with 3 names, so it's
Yeah.
this month.
Anybody else want to put their name to that list? Okay, 3 names. No. All right. Okay.
And can we just see whether County Council will let us have 20-mile voluntary
I'm sure I
sign?
have sent them a message, but
That's
I'm
fine.
not
There's
fine.
also
I'll trace it.
papers circulating around from Ian Bates regarding
history.
the history of the HGV total ban request.
Can I just ask, has there ever been a suggestion of how we explored, are we entitled to stick signs up on the entry to points to the village to say regular speed watch occurs here, watch your speed?
Yeah, we did try that and had some official signs. They said it was sign cluttering. They don't like to have more than one sign on a pole, and putting a speed watch operates in this village was not accepted. We tried very
I thought
hard.
before about putting like children's
As
blinds.
I said, that
and
it was
stuff,
very demoralising.
distracting.
But maybe Sergeant Priestley might say, yes, we can.
It's not up to him. It's up to highways, unfortunately. It's not the police. It's the it's County Council. I know that's the trouble. But I had a sorry, Peter. I had a quick dialogue over that history that Ian Bates sent out with Ian, just saying, I think the thought behind all of that was we did try for the TRO going back, but everything has changed since then. So should we be looking at utilising that? The reasons that we were refused last time. Can we now put together a better position to go back for another TRO because the A14 and the traffic increases
In all
and everything
discussions
else?
I've had over the A14 and the DCO and the Cambridge County Council and that, they will not look at anything until after the A14 is completed to see what effect that has on local traffic
Right,
movements.
yeah.
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 So I would
So we need to collect data.
we do that
Yeah.
once the A14 is open and we can see what effect it has had on traffic at that point. Because that is a big, I don't want to use the word excuse, but it is a big thing that they use that they want as their next milestone.
Something out of interest though, that in this document, because I went through it with a bit of a fine tooth comb, funny enough, Peter, in April 2000, this Huntingdonshire Area Joint Committee, which you would know all about, I'm sure, they said that the committee felt difficult to justify extra cost to operators, meaning the HCV companies, by imposing a 24-hour ban through Hilton. However, this might change if the lorries through Hilton increase. And they were working on 357 HCVs coming through the village.
Sarah, I actually did a 24-hour thing myself, and we had over 700 trucks come through in a 24-hour period.
And this Huntingdonshire Area Joint Committee wouldn't run with it, even though their comments in 2000.
Well, they've all changed now, so they don't know anything about that.
What they said. So they will, again, Cambridge County Council won't have an appetite to look at this until after A14 is changed. So, in amongst all that, we had a request for a liaison with Hilton Action on Traffic Act regarding speed watch.
Yeah, I was going to add to what Ken was saying earlier, we brought it up about, I think we seem to have these separate groups within the village trying to ultimately have the same aim, the same goal, but not really working together or communicating. So I definitely think it's worth having more collaboration between the two groups, and with all the funding issues and the applications we've done or we are doing and things like that. So
Is that a volunteer?
I'll be happy to help
you.
out on that, yeah.
Thank you, Laura. There you go.
That might be that Laura came to the HCV meeting last week, which was very kind of her.
I don't remember getting a thing for an agenda this month. I don't know if it's because we've got so many on it that we didn't get a request, but I haven't put it on the agenda. There wasn't anything particular relevant feedback. It's the same ongoing discussions about trying to reduce the HCVs in the Diamond area and that sort of thing, but I think there's another meeting planned in November, so I'm happy to feedback after those meetings. I'm not sure what the normal feedback process has been in the past, if there has been one, but
Yeah.
let's see.
Please do feedback. Did that big thing, the other side of ERF, get approved? Do you know?
It hasn't been yet, it's still in
Discussion.
consultation period.
Right, so we'll move that forward. If you, with your volunteer group,
Yeah,
perhaps you
yeah.
could ask them in the next couple of days, please, whether there are Speedwatch volunteers available. Right, 3.3 on the agenda is fireworks that have been purchased, discuss admission price and other details. This was mentioned last week at all? Sorry.
Yeah, briefly, last month we haven't been able to make contact
right,
with
okay.
the committee, but they've come back and, as I say, fireworks have now been purchased. They've replaced the person that stepped down from the committee, so they've got full bag. But yeah, we didn't actually discuss, we talked auction prices briefly, but we didn't.
Well, that time we didn't know whether fireworks were happening, did we?
No, not 100%.
And it is definitely the third, isn't it?
Yeah.
That'll be the Saturday, isn't it?
Third
And I don't know whether or not Sharon can input with these weeks, I don't know who to contact.
Yeah, the new Fee Suite committee have got a meeting tomorrow evening, and it is high on the agenda to provide drinks and get a licence for mulled wine this year. So, yeah, so our
food as well,
feedback,
just-
yeah, and
yeah.
food. So I'll perhaps email back just to confirm, but the plan is to get the new committee and support the new committee to provide refreshment.
I would just like to suggest, therefore, are the Parish Council happy to promote the sale of alcoholic beverages, drinks, at a site where there is a bonfire, small children and fireworks.
But from what Sharon said, it was a mulled wine. Is that all?
Oh, it's only mulled wine, yeah.
That's quality in my view, isn't it?
Well, if it's just mulled wine, I'll be happy then. It starts getting to wine and...
We normally have done it every year, mulled wine, but last year there wasn't a licence, so it was non-alcoholic.
You're not there very long, are you?
No.
Going at quite a rate to...
Get them in quotes again, haven't they?
It is, yes.
So-
Nobody's actually ever got drunk on it. And disordered.
This is the challenge.
Yes, seems to be the answer. I take the
It
point.
does seem to be the answer. So could you, Rachel, could you be in contact with the committee?
Yeah.
Could you say that it is only mulled wine?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Can I just raise a question on the fireworks that's slightly off topic, but has any consideration ever been given in the past to getting fireworks that don't make the bang? Because we're in an area with a lot of wildlife, and I'm a dog owner and my dogs go nuts. It is the most stressful night of the year, and I just think it's absolutely crazy.
Thank you, Kieran, for your comment. I think that that is something that would be discussed next year, because obviously the fireworks have been purchased.
But I'm just interested if any considerations been given in the past.
The bang's part of the fireworks, isn't it?
I think anybody's ever...
Doesn't have to be.
I don't think anybody's ever asked before, to be honest.
Right.
Can I just bring one thing after that? Is just after last year with the farm, I'm not going to be here, so apologies, but do you remember they let some off, or they chucked them in the fire, and the farm thought it had finished?
Yeah, we had the same experience.
They did they do it? Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay. So 3rd of November, and the what's the normal score, Graham? Are you happy to be coordinator?
I can send round a list of the tasks.
Yeah.
People fill in what they can do, yeah.
Thank you.
What about price?
Price, same as last year?
3 and 1.
Yeah.
What was it last
£3
year?
and £1, wasn't it?
I think it's
250.
250 per item.
Too cheap.
I think it would be much easier for maths to do £3, wouldn't you?
The float's easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also bear in mind, we could have a number of people coming from other villages, because there's one village that stopped doing fireworks. Is it there?
What time are they doing it again?
Oh, are they doing it now?
No, that's it. Might be on.
Yeah. Don't know.
But shouldn't we do 3 and £1 for children?
Why do we that?
It hasn't gone up for years.
No, it hasn't. And we do have a donation of which £1,000 will be used towards this year's fireworks.
But then when
Was there
that
an
money
age on it?
runs out, you're a huge increase.
Was there an age on the children as well?
School age.
School age, yeah.
Yeah. School age is the...
Under 5s are free, aren't
Uh,
they? And gates open at 6, and then bonfires and then fireworks are at 7.
Yeah. And please volunteer to help on the evening.
If I send that email around with the spreadsheet of what bits need doing.
Yeah.
Can I just ask about, because I already had one inquiry about dropping off items for the bonfire.
Saturday,
Is that just a Saturday from what time?
Normally stops at 1 o'clock.
Stops at 1. Last year we opened at 8 and nobody came, so I suggest
Thursday
we
9 to 1.
Yeah,
so
9 to
9
1, yeah. They're so busy. Rather than,
I can confirm Hengford are having fireworks on the 3rd.
Oh, no.
Gates open at 5. All fire at 5:30. Fireworks at 6:30, so a bit earlier.
Good, that saves a big rush then, that some people thought we might have. Excellent, thank you.
So have
Thanks,
we
Graham.
agreed money for the price?
Oh,
we
yeah,
need to
so
take a vote on that.
we need to take a vote on that. So the proposal is that the cost of admission to the fireworks is £2 per adult, £1 for school-aged children under 5s.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, Graham. All those in favour? Good, thank you. Right, item 4.1, update. A14 application for funding now submitted, and discuss upgrade of A14 to A14N. Highways England have recently announced that they are going to pursue changing the upgrade the part of the A14 to a motorway. Suggested that we perhaps invite somebody from Highways to come and talk to us about the implications thereof. Did you get on to that?
No, I didn't actually.
So I think it would be quite nice if we got a member of Highways down here to explain why they've changed that, how they can get it through the DCO.
During the HCD meeting, Highways England have actually said it was always designed to be a motorway from the start.
Just to tell them, but yeah.
That may well be.
But
If it wasn't in the DCO, then it would be a motorway. It was in the DCO that it would be an A14.
Yeah, but they do seem to suggest that the gantries will be bigger, higher, whatever, because it's motorway, don't they? It doesn't.
Yeah, there's going to be, they'll have those smart motorway gantries where they can change the speed limit. It depends where they're positioned.
Can we get one of those?
You might be able to see it in Hilton. Tell me where they put them.
We won't be able to sign it.
Not the tractor. So we will,
Yeah, good idea.
yeah, Joe's going to ask them if they can come to the next meeting.
Can I just put forward a question for that?
Yeah. I'll let you have this point, but Kieran, the idea of the Parish Council meeting is, sadly, I'm sorry to say, is that it is a closed meeting, it's not a public meeting. The session between items 1 and 2 is the open meeting. As chair, I am able to take comment from the floor, but it is the basis of the meeting is that, I'm afraid it's watch and listen. Okay. Yeah, but carry on, I'll take your comment.
Just the comment is that if it's going to be a motorway, does that give us opportunity to seek sound buffering, which has not been put in place?
That is why we were going to invite Highways England to come here and discuss what they think is in line. Because the DCO did not say it was going to be a motorway, and the DCO, they put in a certain amount of funding for the A4 as on an A road, and were not prepared to increase that funding or put a different grade of low noise road surfacing, other than what they've laid out, unless they were told by an inspectorate, and the inspectorate did not tell them to. So that is why we're going to ask them to come and discuss the implications for Hilton.
Having said that, presumably we have to go to an extraordinary meeting, wouldn't we? If they
Yeah.
If they only make Wednesday,
Yeah.
or a Wednesday or a Thursday,
Yeah.
it's entirely in the
And try and rally the village round at the
What else
time
have we
to
got?
get here as well, like we did.
Yeah. That's why, yes, so we will ask them to come.
The application for funding is the application you were doing last time for the feasibility.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes.
That all went
I've
through,
dropped
that
that.
came back, Rob finished some bits off, and then they needed a couple of other policies, which...
It's 4.6, isn't it?
Yeah. Just to give you a quick update, got an email today from the legacy team, A14 legacy team, saying that we'd hear from Community Fund itself, the folk there, but he was optimistic. So that would be nice. I'm hoping we'll hear soon, which means the county council can go ahead with a feasibility study.
Right.
Or identifying a suitable cycle or any non-motorised user path. So that's the latest.
Thank you, Anne.
So, hopefully, and I could say that we could roll 4.6 into this one, which is that to get that funding submitted, we had to make a decision on 2 policies that the Parish Council had not had. And they were, and Joe circulated these two, was the child and adults at risk safeguarding policy and an equality of that policy. Okay, so these were drafts that were out there as you can just add your name in as Parish Council. So I would like to propose that those 2 are approved. We had to do it in a rush, and I made it the chairman's decision because the wording was acceptable. So those two policies I need you to, I would propose that they are adopted and we'll put them on the website.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sarah. All those in favour? Thank you. So that covers 4.6 as well. And did they say, sorry, I missed that, did they say when they might give them that information?
Not specific, but the implication was soon. So I'm hoping in the next week or so.
And what do we do once we've got what's the next step to go to
The
the
county
council?
council have to slot us in sometime to do the feasibility study.
It needs to be there, didn't it? They were saying that it was probably going to be county council, but didn't have to be.
Well, the meeting we had with the guy from the county council, they seemed quite comfortable to do it for us.
Okay. All right.
We'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much. Right, 4.2 is update on easement at PEX copies. So over the last week, roughly, the easement document was returned from the district valuer, placing a valuation on easement to that strip of land of £37,500, and this has been sent to the applicant's solicitor. Also, comment has been made to the applicant's solicitor about the use of that access during the current building work, and the aggregates have been put down, and it is been, the solicitor has been advised that if a satisfactory easement is not agreed within 21 days, the hardcore is removed and the restoration of the surface of the parish council land be made without further notice. We haven't had a response to that comment. There's no request to use the land for the access to the building site, and I understand, I haven't seen it myself, that the land is quite chopped up. So,
Did you say 21 days?
yes, I believe that was Friday. Thursday or Friday. So we will keep you advised on what comes up, if anything comes up in that. Item 4.3 is green open spaces update. See, Kieran's not here. Ian, do you have that green open spaces?
Yes, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about Reeves Ditch later on, but the only other thing I would add at this stage is the water bill survey that took place in June, I think it was. We were all geared up to receive some water bills this autumn.
Oh, yes,
yes, yes. But what has happened is that the place that they were coming from dried up before we got dry, and they've gone. So she doesn't know just quite where, but I've been in consultation with this lady, Julie Massey, and said obviously if they return, then we're still willing to give them a home. And also I've asked if I can meet up with her sometime to discuss management of our water courses in a bit more detail and how we make most of the populations that we do have. It's interesting the number of times that when you wander around, and there are a number of people who know roughly where the water bills are, and they're there still in them. You say to them, are you looking for water bills? And they, yeah.
Did we pass the tests to get the water bills, and they were coming to monitor our minks and all the other
Well,
bits?
she didn't actually answer that question. It's one of the questions I've put to her actually. But waiting for her to come back. We received that at the right at the tail end of last week. But that's all I would add at this stage. So talk about Reeves Ditch later. We need to have further quotations,
Okay.
which I think is what we said at the last meeting. So that is still to happen.
Just are the files still due next Monday? That you know of?
It was supposed to be the 8th, wasn't it, according to the last minutes? Yeah.
Because we talked about a note, but I wasn't too sure what the note was going to say. Was it just
No, I held off on that till.
Sorry?
I held off on that until we know the
Was it in the
actual date.
spectrum?
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I put the note in,
Oh,
it was a bit late.
yeah, it was in the spectrum.
I wasn't entirely sure what,
Yeah,
whether
I
it's
think we
sort
said it
of
was due to start on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
8th.
But I was trying to keep people away from the activity or?
I don't know
Just
where
let
it's
them
going to
aware, or-
start. So.
I think we'll never know inspection seems
Pretty good,
fine,
isn't it?
yeah.
Great, thank you.
No, telling people
That's
it's
brilliant, but I can't remember what it is. Good. Thank you, Ian. Item 4.4, community bus services update and survey.
Well, I think they just, the final bits were done back end of last week, weren't they? Because there was a lot of
25th or something.
typos and stuff, so.
There's three things that we need to do really and very quickly. Because it's a number of parishes that are doing this, we agreed a completion date for the survey by 31st of October. And it's the first. So the three
And they've
things
just
that we need
released it, haven't they?
to do is get the Hilton version, as it were, on to the common Survey Monkey. And the Hilton version is the idea that we add some specific comment relevant to Hilton, but the survey is exactly the same, yeah.
Doesn't
But it's on,
very well, does it?
no, it's on Survey Monkey, it looks fine. It's
Yeah,
great.
okay.
But it's just whether we want to add anything specific to Hilton. I initially thought, yes, we do. I'm now in the position of thinking that we can do that on the leaflet and on our own website.
And we've done a survey around Hilton already.
Well, we have, but this one's a bit different, and I think we need to emphasise that. The fact that it's a number of parishes, firstly. Secondly, that we're trying to say, well, never mind what's been in the past, look into the future, what sort of needs does your household have? And it's all about saying, the idea is to get buses that will take you to the park and ride, so that you can get trains and whatever is from there. So we're trying to keep it quite tight, and the view is to then, with that data, take it to the county council, and if it needs to be the combined authority, to say, okay, this is what this bunch of parishes need, what can you do? And I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, that our mayor of the combined authority is very keen on the infrastructure, transport infrastructure. So we thought we'd feed him some info. So that's the plot.
Now they've released the survey, and it's on survey, we need to get people aware that we'd like them to complete it by the 31st of December.
And what I've drafted a leaflet, which I've sent to Joe, and a number of people have said they will volunteer to tread the pavements, so we just need, I'd really like to get it out this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you, so did you want to add anything on to it?
I don't think I should add it.
No, I don't.
No,
I agree.
Yeah.
It's a standard one for the area, isn't it?
Because it asks where your where your destinations are, and it is now about getting it out there for people to be able to do
That's
it.
right, that's right. So I think on the leaflet we make our case, position it as different from the previous survey, and emphasise that ideally you do it online, Survey Monkey. We probably ought to print a few, and so I know that the shop's quite happy to have some in the shop, in order to enable those without online access to complete them.
And where do they send them to?
It's a Survey Monkey. Well,
Right.
if
If
they
you
do
haven't
the
got
paper
access.
one, it has to go to Joe,
Right.
and then Joe sends it to
So that,
St Ives.
Yep. The leaflet's done, I haven't printed them out, I was on a call
It
today,
is, you can.
because I didn't know if there were
Hello?
any changes to them. But I'm
Hello?
just printing, and then,
Yes, sir.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
maybe take them out on Wednesday or something.
Go on then.
So I could put them on Wednesday morning.
yeah.
and how are you going to coordinate? You want to do a whole leaflet drop around the village?
Yeah, ideally.
I was just waiting for this.
If you can help Anne over the, when you can come by.
I'd like it done this week, if at all possible.
So if
I
you're
just need to
available
know.
over the next few days, could you let Anne
Okay.
know, please, so that she can.
Excellent. Well, just drop me an email and
Yeah.
we can allocate the map. We have a map.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
thank you very much, Tim.
Excellent. And then this, the whole thing is being coordinated by St Ives.
Yep.
You went to a meeting, didn't you? We went to a meeting previously, and the outcome of that meeting, the aim of that is to ask County Council to come and listen and take on board the results of because. So I assume, I wasn't at the last meeting, I assume that that is what the aim still was of the, because it was represented by a number of parish councils.
I'm sure it's got at least half a dozen, can't remember them all off the top of my head.
Okay, item 4.5.
Just slightly
Sorry.
used about question 8. Have you read question 8?
Question 8.
About specific access needs, large sports equipment, e.g. surfboard.
Yes. Well, you know, when
Someone travelling on a bus to Cambridge with a surfboard.
yeah, but when the bus
I want
went
to know
floods,
I want to know someone
when the bus
tips
went
that box.
floods,
Oh, diversity.
You wouldn't have a surfboard.
Come
do,
on,
maybe.
service.
Wouldn't your golf clubs have been better?
Whatever. Yeah. Sorry.
yes, but I think that's already on sale.
And they did make some corrections.
Perhaps it's to hit those people that are mugging people on the busway.
Sorry?
Perhaps it's to, you could hit the people who have been mugging people on the busway.
On the busway or the buses?
No, on the busway.
Really?
Over Addenbrooke's way.
Oh, right. This is quite dark, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people walking from park and ride.
Do you have a look?
Ooh.
Right. Nasty. A couple of gangs, little gangs work.
This is areas, isn't it?
So thank you, Anne. Thank you for those who can help Anne do that. So item 4.5, the pavilion application has been submitted, and as we learned earlier, Huntingdon District Council have changed the rules and sent it back. So as £117 is within the remit that I can authorise, I authorise the payment of that amount so that the application could be submitted and therefore the process can go to the next stage.
So can I just ask, when they sent it back, when then you sent the cheque back, that was the start of the 6, 8, 10 weeks?
I think so. I think they took a while to come back to Kieran about it. That's why we
So
got to payment on.
I authorise the payment of that. I need you to propose that. Oh, no, thank you. I was going to say,
I'll put it in the
but we'll do it
yeah.
under authorised payments. Right. And Chairman.
And then as
You can
soon as
say.
we've got planning permission, we can put in the application for funding, which that's what we're waiting on now. So, but knowing HTC, it might, 8 weeks I think is the minimum.
Yeah.
However, we'll just wait to find out when we'll get planning permission.
Yeah. Okay. We'll update us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item 4.6 is the adoption of those policies which you've done. Thank you very much. Item 4.7 is planning policy. So we consider planning policy document with a view to adopt. Great.
I sent it round really because we kind of realised that we hadn't got a policy and that the planning committee were making decisions assuming it had the approval or authority of the main parish council. It's been that way for many a year, but we felt it was kind of good to put it in writing so that the way it works is recorded.
Yeah.
It's a 3-page document that is out there for sort of consultation really, just to make sure that people are generally happy. Anne's already made a comment, and my response to that is that there's always supplementary reading that one can do, and likewise for the way that this monthly meetings work. There's always supplementary information that can be read. So the idea of doing this was just 3 pages to try and highlight what we can and can't do and why we do it, and hopefully the planning committee is generally happy with it, and hopefully the main parish council are happy that that's what the planning committee are going to be doing. Whether you've had a chance to read it or comments?
Is this a sort of template from Huntingdon Planning Department?
No, it started off as something that Anne gave us from another council. So forgotten. It doesn't matter what the council was, but they had a document which obviously I changed all of those into Hilton and added took a few things out. So it's
So does this need to be agreed by Huntingdon Planning?
no, because it's what we've said there is fact. It's the way that HDC work.
Right.
They give us all planning applications that are within the area. They are obliged to consult with us. And they are the planning authority, so they're the ones that make the decisions. So
And
we
they
are-
tell you, as the planning committee, what you are allowed to comment on and what you're not allowed to comment on?
They tell everybody what you can and can't comment on. So we have no additional rights beyond what a normal parishioner has. So we,
Mr Joe Boggs, who lives next
yes,
door?
that's right. Yes. So there are various reasons why you can and cannot accept or decline an application, or suggest or comment on it.
Okay.
Except the difference is that as a parish council you get a form to fill in, which has 3 options
Yep.
on it.
Yep.
Support recommendation, refuse, recommend decline, recommend support, recommend decline, or no comment. Or you have no observation on the planning application. So that's what the parish council has to form its response around.
Yeah. I think the basic policy of the committee, the good thing about the committee is it brings applications to the wider public. Obviously you get to know, if you're a neighbour you get to know, but by having a formal committee meeting, it advertises it to the village that there is something going on, and gives opportunity to discuss it. So it does serve a purpose from that point of view as well.
I think it's it's a really good document to have, especially for new members that are on the planning committee. My only comment was on actions prior to a planning meeting. Point number 4, where the complexity of application requires it, a meeting should be arranged to view the application site and neighbouring properties. I just think, how do we decide a complexity of an application? I think we should just arrange a site viewing for all applications, so it's a fair and open, decision. Because actually, on paper it might not look complex, but actually when you get on site it might be a complex. And I know other parish councils do have 2 councillors who can visit, all the planning applications. So, and then those 2 councillors can feed back to the planning committee to say they've seen the site and certainly, it might not always need a meeting with the applicant, but maybe just walk around the site. Obviously you'd have to ask if you wanted to go onto the land, if you couldn't actually see it from the roadside.
Yeah, I mean,
Most often we do that.
yeah, I mean,
I just think perhaps it needs to be.
I try and just keep it simple.
If there's an extension to a porch,
It doesn't hurt a quick walk round to look at, does that material actually fit with
no, and I
the
think,
material on the roof, which you can't really see from a drawing.
yeah,
I just think we need to treat all applications the same as parish council. So have the
I mean,
same
The only thing is, like,
process.
for those ones where you can't see, so if it's a rear extension, and like whether you're going to knock on someone's door and say, excuse me, can I come in the backyard and see your site?
Yeah, in
that's
that
a bit different
case,
to walking down the street and
I
being able
think
to look at it. Isn't it?
If on the application, obviously visible from the road, you'd have to arrange a meeting with the applicant.
We have done. I don't think many applicants would do that.
I think most people would well.
what do you think about that?
well, we discussed that at the last meeting, and I thought that point 4 was the way we agreed it. Point 3 is the one where you make the walk round. Members will make themselves familiar with the application, including location and all the details. So the idea of 3 was that you personally would take a walk round, Item 4 can get difficult because not only should you visit the property, you've then got to also visit the neighbours. And that can be quite complex. To be fair, it can be quite a complex procedure, but I mean, if... Yeah.
So if deemed necessary.
But who decides if it's necessary?
Do you think point 3 covers your concerns? 4.3
Sorry, I thought that was just meaning the application on the website and the HDC website.
I mean, maybe I can spec on 3.
Okay.
I intended that 3 would be, you take a walk round and you stop and look how it looks from the street scene. Members make themselves familiar with actually including the location, but I could increase that one. Because that's what the development committee at HCC do. They don't actually knock on doors. The planners do, but the developers, the development committee stop and look. They don't actually knock on doors.
Do you have a go at rewording that last bit?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
But I say if we make it a requirement, it then becomes
Becomes a
set in
requirement,
stone and
yeah.
it's a bit too,
And then you
it's
can
a
leave
bit
it
too
to...
So I was just
restraining.
saying that the council don't actually have any input into the decision. They're only making a comment just as the neighbours would, so they don't need to know every detail of the application
I think it's,
in that way
yeah,
either, I suppose.
yes. I think it's more important that they are actually informed of the meeting.
Yeah.
That's a very important one.
Yeah. Would you mind? So maybe reword that a little bit and see if we can copy Sam. Okay. All right, so that'll come back. Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda, 5.1, is update on Reeve Ditch and further discuss and decide on the request from a parishioner to set up Hilton Anglian Pub. This is Kieran and Paul. Yeah? So this was on the agenda last month. You'll forgive me as to where it got to.
Well, because it was quite a long, it ended up being quite a long discussion because we were looking at the pond itself and the condition it was in, and then obviously
And thank you
separately
for your
the
big
Anglian.
efforts with regards to highways and getting the
Yes.
Bowser would be a fair word?
Yeah,
Or
that's the
tank.
accurate description.
Is the accurate description of
I've
Bowser?
been there again today, I've been contacted them this
Right,
morning because,
You've been in contact
Yeah.
as well, haven't you?
right.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah. I was just fine with the comments.
It's very it's tricky to know when I can talk.
Yeah.
Please got that point.
Yes, the Bowser was there today. There was several. It was there all day today, and it's going to be there tomorrow again. 3,500 litres per delivery. It's there because of the work we've done off our own bat in order to do it, and we keep the heat on the A14.
Thank you. Yeah. And do they do it following your suggestions about how the water is applied in the ditch?
Yes.
Yeah, by spraying it.
It's not possible to spray it in, but it's going down a plastic sheeting down the bank, and then being dispersed over the stone and wooden pallet that was there. So it's then dispersed, so it's disturbing the least amount of silt water.
And do you see a visible increase in the water level?
Absolutely.
A little bit of background actually on the tank of those and also on the level and why we're the position we're in. My time on the council, there's been 2 occasions when this has been necessary. The last time was in 2003, and in 2003 the Environment Agency came along in, I think it was July time, and they took out all the sizable fish which went to their huddling tanks over in Brampton, that was. They then brought them back in the beginning of the second week of December, I think it was. Now, if we compare the 2 years in terms of rainfall and look at the critical period, which I'd call the 5 months of the summer, May, June, July, August, September, then the average rainfall for that period would normally be 240 millimetres. In 2003 it was 157, this year it's been 129. So 2003 was 65% of normal, This year it's been 53% normal. That's why it has been so severe. So it does make you stop and think when you look at those data. In actual fact, just to correct it, Kieran, it's 3,500 gallons that they're putting in. I could word with them this evening. And that gives us 16,000 litres. They put 6 tanker loads in previously, which is 96,000 litres. Today and tomorrow they're hoping to put in 15 tanker loads, which is 240,000 litres, which gives us a total of 336,000 litres. We're talking about a third of a million litres.
It's a phenomenal.
Now, if we think about it, I reckon that pond is something like about 65 metres long and 17 metres wide.
We've measured it.
Ah,
Yeah.
is it about that?
No.
Blast.
Go on.
I better get back to my sums.
I've been in there in my waders and involved.
It's 80 metres long and 25 metres wide.
Right,
And down to the high water mark.
right,
Taking the high water mark off the no fishing or the Hilton
Yeah.
Pleasant sign.
yeah, right.
600,000 gallons it holds.
Because
Yeah.
at the moment it's not as big as that.
No.
No. So what I had done when I put those figures together was that was the mean size between what it is now and what it should be.
Yeah.
The reason I did that was that if you actually work out the mathematics of it, then 336,000 litres should give us an increase in level of about 30 centimetres, which is a foot.
Have you calculated the evaporation over that same period?
No.
Have you calculated the silt volume that's in there?
I mean, it's interesting, the silt volume, because I was going to ask you that question. The silt, we had quite a lot of the silt taken out in 2003, and I know there was few folk were suggesting possibly we should try and do the same this time round. Now, I reckon there's about, I've had a wander in a few times over the last few weeks, and I reckon there's something round about 10 centimetres, 4 inches, 5 inches of silt.
There's a lot more. When you go
Well,
into the...
if you go in the middle there is,
Mhm.
but towards the edge there's not an awful lot, is there?
Yeah.
That's why I'm back to the mean figures again.
I reckon there's about somewhere between 150 and 200 cubic metres of silt.
Right, cubic metres, yeah, right. I mean, it's an interesting one because it's the only pond in the village that is not part of a watercourse,
Exactly.
which makes you wonder, how does that all silt all get in there?
Well, we know.
We know the salt gets in.
It's coming from the far bank.
Yeah.
From the far bank?
Yeah.
So the
From
road
erosion.
bank, yeah, it's erosion, it's undercutting that bank and those gardens.
Right,
They're gonna
The salt's falling
end up in there.
right,
pitch.
interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. The fish that were in there, a lot of carp,
Predominantly carp.
Predominantly carp.
some perch.
There's a small number of perch. It's predominantly carp from what I can
Right.
see.
Are they bottom feeders?
Carp will bottom feed, but they'll also surface feed.
Will they? Right, yeah.
So
Because what I don't know, and this is, I mean, I'm no fisherman, I've probably shown that already, is there an advantage having a certain depth of silt for bottom feeders?
it depends on what invertebrates that are there.
Quite.
That there's an awful lot of anaerobic bacteria in there. The mud, that silt seems to be predominantly dead.
That's why it's black when you disturb
Yes,
it. Okay, and
it is.
that will immediately remove oxygen from the water,
Yeah.
depriving the fish.
Yeah. Right.
That really needs to come out, or a
Yeah.
lot of it needs to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I just ask what actions were being taken or what results were achieved before we got involved in trying to move things forward.
And for some reason, parishioners seem to have more luck than I do when speaking to them, because I've been speaking to John at the A14 about it just prior to you guys getting involved, and I hadn't really had very much of a response. I had we've been speaking to the Environment Agency before that over the summer, but unfortunately, because originally when it first started it was obviously very dry, we hadn't had any rain for a long time, but that was happening throughout the country, so they couldn't commit any resources to our pond because they didn't have people to come out and look at it, so it's kind of all sort of spiralled from there. But then you guys got involved, and for some reason you had more luck than I had in actually getting them to come out and do some stuff, perhaps because you're obviously much more knowledgeable than I am on fishing and that side of things, so the water levels, that you were able to perhaps put back a better argument than I was.
Okay, thank you, it's just interesting. Am I okay to speak?
Yeah. John wants to make a comment as well.
I was going to ask through the chair. Okay.
Yeah, but Kieran's going to make a comment first.
The reason that I got traction with the Environment Agency is because I'm an angler and I'm a rod licence holder, and I've coached, managed international teams, youth teams in the past, so I was able to speak the right language to them. The situation that's there is that currently we're going to lose those fish very quickly as the water levels are continuing to drop due to the groundwater extraction down the road. It's ground source fed, so the silt has to be coming from somewhere. We went about investigating where that was coming from, and it appears to be the vibration on the road plus the water action. If you look on the road side, you'll see that that side of the pond bed is, you can clearly see that the metal surface, the stones and that. So the silt seems to be pushed across the pond as a consequence of the vibrations that are there. We reckon that there's approximately 150 fish in there at the moment. There's 40 fish removed and being held in temporary area. Yeah. If that water is going to drop again very quickly because they're still extracting water down the road. They initially denied that they had anything to do with it, and then discussed hydrology reports with them. I've been involved in very large multi-million-pound industrial projects with ground source water. Once they knew that, they changed their tune quite quickly. I got a copy of the report and looked at it, and it doesn't completely support their denial that it could be them. Subsequently, the environment people on that project have admitted to us that it is them. So as long as that water keeps being extracted, we're going to keep losing our water. If we lose water again now as we're coming into the cold months, it's going to freeze and it'll kill all the fish.
We discussed that at the last meeting, didn't we? And that we didn't get anyone confirmed that was happening. But now they've definitely confirmed
they've confirmed it to us, but they won't confirm it officially.
We won't say that to the Environment Agency.
Can I just ask one thing? Sorry, I know we're concerned about the fish. I'm also slightly concerned about the foundations that some of our old cottages are sitting on. We're sitting on quite a clay silt area.
Yes.
We're drying out hugely at the moment.
And the ground will subside.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know the fish are very important, but we have got a very old watercourse in this village. Shouldn't we be doing something about this as a parish council? Shouldn't we be taking the information that you've got and taking this a little further and make the village aware of this? Because people with good foundations, it's not really such a problem, hopefully. But some of the older properties that are sitting here, it is a real concern.
Absolutely.
And didn't they say, well, I thought the last meeting they'd stopped doing...
Yes,
they've stopped now, but they've not
But they have
not
not
stopped.
watched them.
They've not stopped it. Every time I drive down, you see it. So the water is still being extracted and it's from the road. Their primary concern is monitoring the fishing legs the opposite side, on the St. Ives side. They've been monitoring those and claim that there's been very little drop on those. Now, the thing that they haven't explained is that quite likely those lakes deeper, and consequently they're reaching further into the water table, so they're not being affected as much.
But we're high here in comparison to where they're...
Well, it depends on, it's the water table level. So they've gone down, they've hit the water table, and in order to continue extracting the sands and gravel, they're continuing to move water. And each time they go that bit lower and that bit lower. So our water table may sit slightly higher, but it is going to flow that direction in order to try and balance the levels. Moving through sand and gravels, the ground source water will move much more quickly than it would through rock. So consequently, we're just going to lose our water.
And once they've finished extracting water to build this motorway, do you believe the water tables will just come back, or have they changed the whole of the water course?
It will come back, but it needs a lot of rainfall.
There's a lot of land ifs and buts. It depends what the owners of the land they've loaned or they've taken possession of, what they want to do with that land afterwards. They might want to put a pond in there themselves. They might want to apply the fishing lake. They may want it going back to arable farming. We don't know.
And there was the delayed decision on the final use of the borrow pits and so on.
Sorry,
they delayed final use of the decision on the final use of the borrow pits until after the project would be completed. Because at one point there was talk of it being a nature park with 2 lakes.
I inquired as to whether we could move the fish down into their temporary reservoir, but that wasn't allowed.
I talked to Highways England guy on the Welly walk, the 10k walk down the road, lots of discussions. They verbally admitted that they were extracting water and that was the problem, but they also interestingly said that they've extracted more topsoil than they thought they were going to, and they were potentially going to refill some of the borrow pits where they weren't planning to originally. So we might have some of the borrow pits refilled with topsoil that they've taken on.
So they're putting water in that they're extracting?
Yeah,
to extract it further down.
Because we can't put potable water in, so that's the answer.
So this is 2018. In 2019, do you foresee a similar problem?
Absolutely, as long as that water keeps being extracted.
And therefore, highways might well agree to repopulate the pond with the water. 2020, when building work comes to an end, and there's still an issue with the water, they won't then put the water back in.
They won't be around, will they? Once they've finished to their boundaries, and
Once they've finished, once the groundwater extraction ceases, the water table will have an opportunity to rebalance, and then we should be fine.
If there are lakes there, there'll still be a volume of water will be held in that lake as opposed to here. So you just
the balance
same
will
amount of
just
water
take
is
longer.
somewhere else, so it still won't be filled.
So we need
unless they fill those like interesting question legally.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you have no right to water that's in the ground. So legally, I would suggest, I don't know this, but I would suggest we actually have no claim to it.
No, the Environment Agency typically, from my work with ground source water for food manufacturing, in order to extract you must get a licence from the Environment Agency, and that then is limited by volume, whatever your licence states.
I understand that the Environment Agency own the fish in the Stitch. Did we discuss last time?
Yeah, I found that chap and he's given permission.
Sorry?
I found the chap who stopped and he's given permission to look to save or do what we can to save the fish.
Right, okay.
Can you remind me, is there a plan to plant trees at any point?
Little ones, I think.
plant trees where?
On the bun.
Oh, on the bunch, yeah, they have a programme of planting that
Well,
would be due.
The factor there is, you know Elizabeth Way as you go into St Ives. That's where one of my husband's broiler farms that he was responsible for. The water table there was regularly rising with chickens up to their hocks in water because he campaigned for concrete floors constantly, but that's another issue. But then the trees that are by the lorry lay-by, they were planted, and that has dried that area very considerably. So that is a factor that will have to be taken into account in all of this discussion. So that those trees have absorbed a vast amount of water over the years, which is plain because of the sight of them. It's probably 30 years, I should think.
Yeah, but they have taken an awful lot of trees down to do this A14,
So we-
so I'm
so-
sure that...
Coming back to the legal point, because
Go on.
So we want to like...
so if the legal constraint is with the environmental agency because they give the licence,
Yeah.
they're acknowledging that this is a problem, I'm guessing. So therefore they're the only ones with power. So they're the only people with power to do anything to stop it. So
So we should
surely
appeal to them.
this needs to go to the environmental agency, ideally with your support, with the knowledge you've got,
Yeah.
to say these are the facts,
Yeah.
these are the assumptions. Look into it, deal with it, because you're screwing up your environment that you're supposed to protect. And beyond that, there's very little anyone can do.
There is another option. And one of those is, there's a number of options, but one of the ones that would be the most, in my mind, the most feasible and long-term solution to it is to simply sink a borehole ourselves and use that on a float pump. So when the water level starts to drop, it automatically pumps ground source water in from our own ground source and tops it up. That'll then be a cyclical system because as it begins to drop away again, it's into the water table.
Where would you put that? In next to the pond or in the pond?
Well, it depends on, there's the old well along Graves, Grove End. So there's a water source there. The water table was accessible at that point. So it could be put somewhere in the ditch or even close to the pond, it doesn't matter. From finding it and then just pumping it.
Actually, there were 4 village pumps during the war, in the First World War, at various places. I can't tell you where they are out of my head.
One right by Reeves Ditch.
Yeah,
in that
there was.
right where the water pumping, where the water pumping station is,
Ah.
in that grass area.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a village pump
That's
there.
right, Andy.
Yeah, bit of photo of it.
So that makes it even.
Could you not, sorry to interrupt, Peter, could you not then, if it's their fault, use that as a pointer to them and say, look, you've got to reinstate this at your cost, otherwise we'll have to, make them pay for it rather than the village have to pay. Shame them into paying for it, really.
But if there's a well there, you don't need a borehole, you just need a pump.
Oh, you'll have to dig down a bit, I expect.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, is this well still there, Andy, by Reeves?
No idea. It was. I've got a photograph of it sitting down that piece of grass on the corner when you
Well, it's
cut
not
down
like
the grove.
it's cast then, isn't it?
No, yeah.
Chuck a pump down there. Because a lot of the wells have dropped.
I can't put a figure on it. The depth is only going to be a matter of metres. So it's, I've done projects before where there were test bores and it was £5,000 for a test bore to be done.
But that assumes that they got the equipment up there anyway because they're boring away, aren't they?
Yeah. So there's I see that as, or we see that as being a possible solution which would fix the ongoing issue, and then even on a dry summer we'd still be able to put water into it and it would solve the problem.
So we're going to be asking the 14-foot to pay for the borehole.
But
I think we need to come back to they're not even admitting them in it, so they're not going to pay for anything.
No.
The first thing we've got to
Well, I
do
do
is
agree, I
start with the
agree there,
environment
yeah.
agency.
So we need to, one, we need to talk to the Environment Agency again and say, look, what action are you taking with regards to this, given that
Do we have permission?
2 parishioners, 3 parishioners have been advised by Highways Agency verbally that they are responsible for the reduction in water levels in the village. And we should write to Highways and say, you have admitted verbally to parishioners that you are responsible for this. We are grateful for you pumping the water back into the things. However, one possible solution going forward is the sinking of a borehole. Please, could you come and do so?
But Peter, I think there's one other thing that when we write to the Environment Agency that we really need to pick up, is that if they're taking that amount of water away from the village, because of the type of soil we're sitting on here, we're going to start getting subsidence. Now, if we're going to start getting subsidence in the village, there's going to be a lot of buildings that are damaged, and there's a lot of buildings that don't have much of a foundation. They sit on the ground. I mean, a lot of the buildings, the old ones here, are built in that way. I think we need to say to the Environment Agency, we are concerned about not only the fact that we haven't got water for our fish, we are actually concerned about the fact the state of the ground and the fact that we have got a possibility of subsidence because they're altering the whole dimension, the way that the ground is made up.
I agree with that.
I know several people that have had issues, not in the village but elsewhere,
Yeah.
as a consequence of the...
And
We can include that in company. Yeah.
I mean, if we only had a few old houses, it's fine. We've got a lot of old houses.
There's of course the risk that since you do the pressure in A14, they'll stop supporting you with the Bowser. I would, on the basis it looks like you're making liability, so just be prepared. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but be prepared that at that point they might say, we're going to stop helping you by the new Bowsers, we don't believe it's our fault. But you've got to do something else. I think that's the Environment Agency is right that we need to see. They can be restricted on that issue.
Well, you can't just dig a well and pull water out without getting permission.
Just coming back to the pond and the erosion of the walls, is there anything we can do to prevent that carrying on or getting worse, or is there?
Sorry, in terms of...
I'm definitely afraid you're
Sorry, is there, in terms of the erosion on the edge of the pond?
Yes.
Is there anything that we can do to prevent that? Is that because that's increasing the silt?
There are options. You can install a groin down the far side, railway sleepers, or something that's not creosoted, otherwise that will affect the fish. Or as has been done on the roadside, where concrete bags have been placed along, and then some of the silt could be extracted and put behind to build the bank up, and then whatever creatures in there can go back in the pond.
I'm just thinking while the water is low, it's an ideal opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
If that's sort of urgent work, and
we'd have to be careful not to damage the metal in the base of the pond.
That's right.
Because if that gets damaged, then we're opening up a completely different...
Kettle of fish.
I've no idea. I've no idea about ponds, but it just thought actually if the water's low and that problem is evident.
Is the metal actually retaining water?
No, metaling's it's like the Romans built roads.
Yeah.
So you have the clay, and the stones are pushed into the clay, and that protects the base. So when anything goes in there, the water stays in. But if anything damages the base, I mean, it's only as thick as the stones and the clay. So if something's fallen in there or something's damaged the base, or the clay may have dried out underneath.
So to answer your question as well, is our belief is that because the water table has dropped beneath the pond, that there's now the effect of osmosis, so it's been pulled out. So it will pass through that metal surface, whereas normally it would be sitting on top of the water table, so there'd be no draw on the water.
Right, so we're going to write to the Environment Agency and try this.
So the purpose of the club, we in no way were requesting any consultation or permission from the council to form a club. That's not the purpose of having included that suggestion or action in our plan. The reason for the club is that currently the Environment Agency cannot help because it's a private pond. However, after being told that, I then went back to the Environment Agency and inquired as to if it was the case that there was an angling club using that pond, would that enable them to free up resources? And I was told yes, it certainly would, and that there is the opportunity and potential to have funding matched. So if we raised, as a club, if we raised money for the pond, then the Environment Agency would match that, and that could be up to the region of £4,000 or £5,000. So that's the reason that the club has been mentioned. We've got, I think, about 30 members from the village who want to get involved.
Wow, it's the only thing the village does.
So it's, the idea is that members are not necessarily anglers, they're just interested in saving the pond.
Okay.
The idea being that the club would then use the pond as a resource to teach the kids how to fish, and also put a nature reserve type educational piece involved as well, so as kids can come and learn about the flora and fauna. So that's the reasoning behind the club. Any angler worth their salt wouldn't even consider the pond as being something somewhere to go and fish. There's some nice fish in it, but it'll be good fun for the kids.
Glad you said that. And you're going ahead and setting that club up?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very
Good.
much.
I thought we discussed this last time. We said the environmental agency, we thought the environmental agency should own that pond and it wasn't considered a private pond. Kieran had some comments. What was... Not taken away from anything.
I thought it was the other way around. The environment agency owned the fish.
That's correct. We can Hilton own the land that the pond sits on.
And the water. We have the water.
The Environment Agency own the water and the fish, but we own the land that the pond sits on.
I heard from somebody, I don't know the person's name, but in the village that actually the deeds of the pond were on a property, belonged to a property.
Really?
Mm.
Find out more and come back and tell us.
That's right.
That sounds amazing. Then we go to that person and say, your fault. Sort it out. Check your deeds out.
I'll check the land registry, but it would appear that the pond sits within the title of the green.
Mm.
So it would be in the deeds of that, of the green.
Mm.
And the Parish Council owns the green?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I'll have a look at, I've got an outline of the land registry document.
Can I just check? I thought the club sounded like a good idea at the last meeting, but there was some concerns raised about the fact it turned it into a fishery, and I don't know what those concerns were, but is that no longer a concern that anyone had?
I think Kieran had concerns about the fact that you were going to go fishing in other places and other people were going to come fishing here, and it was going to create lots more people and cars and traffic and...
Oh, I'd love to lock horns on that particular argument. That's ridiculous.
It's okay, that was vaguely my remembrance.
That's right.
There's no parking allowed on the green around.
No.
No, so...
That's not my concern at all.
No, it wasn't mine either, but it was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I know you don't.
No, it sounds very good, actually.
Sounds super.
But as Kieran was saying, it would be the kids mostly.
Yeah.
From the village, really.
Yeah.
And hopefully, because there'll be a few more parishioners around there teaching the kids, they might be able to stop people that are non-parishioners. Because that was one of the other reasons for setting up as an angling club, wasn't it? So members only could fish in Reeves Ditch.
Yeah, ideally it's...
Because I think we have people from outside the village that fish there.
My own personal view on it is that, you know, if somebody comes along and fishes in it, then they're enjoying fishing. The problem is that people from outside of the village are more likely to be the people that are coming and taking those fish for food.
Yes.
And
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is something that we would be clamping down on in a big way.
And that's quite positive for the village.
Yes.
It's I've managed I was vice chairman of the England youth fly fishing team, and so managed those teams for internationals. I've managed the Irish junior and youth world shore angling teams for 5 years.
And you come to a landlocked county to live?
Oh, tell me about it. I'm an offshore sailor, racing sailor. I'm an ONLI volunteer and regularly do stuff with them. And I do lots of other bits and pieces as well. But the only reason I mention that is from the point of view of the kids. So I have an interest in teaching and helping kids enjoy.
And maybe you get the age of 14 to commit some money towards helping the fish.
Yeah.
Splendid.
With some of
All
their
right.
grants.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Yes.
We will do that, and we'll pull on your knowledge, experience, if that's okay, when we're talking to the Environment Agency and to Highways.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to help.
Brilliant, thank you very much. 5.2 is a request for the donation for the Royal British Legion. The event that's happening on the 11th of November, and whether I can be there, yes I can, on the 11th, I've checked with the boss and I'm around. And then we have got, then there's the event during the course of the day, and there's a leaflet gone out, I see. We have a leaflet on our kitchen table at the moment.
Most of you have got yours. Don't say you haven't because you have.
Yeah. That's what I said, it's on the kitchen table.
Here we are. That's the one.
And we've had
You've got yours today.
Have we?
Yeah.
Oh, right, I was
Yeah.
going to say. Thank you, Michael.
May I just add, Peter, that
Yes.
When I emailed Joe, I did say that it would be nice if we could have a member of the council to collaborate with us as regards the lighting of the beacon. It isn't here, but that was
Oh,
my
okay.
question.
Yeah. So, obviously, that you've talked about the dusk, beacon at dusk. It's in the leaflet,
Yes.
which is fine.
Which we agreed some months ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're just working out between us as to when it goes up, if you see what I mean. When we put it up, whether it goes up in the morning of, or the day before, I think, was the last discussion I had. But we will sort that out and ensure that it
The
is
inference
up there.
there is, obviously, it's weather permitting. You know, I mean,
If the rains come, Kieran will be dancing around happy as Larry. If it has rained for 40 days and 40 nights before that day. But
over the ditch.
the reason for asking for perhaps somebody to collaborate is that it would be quite nice to do something there rather than just stand and watch the beacon burning. I mean, I haven't got a suggestion. I mean, any ideas are very welcome. But we don't want to just stand there watching the beacon and then go home, do we?
no, the last time it was lit, we had Councillor Bates say a few words.
Yeah,
Before.
sorry, he won't be there.
Right.
He will be elsewhere. So.
So you said a few words. Yeah. All right, I'll collaborate with you.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. And then the knitted poppies. Could you tell me? Because I read that and I thought that sounds very nice.
Well, I don't know if you know about this community project that's been taking place in the district, St Ives and so on. We've had about 50 ladies who've been knitting poppies since January. We thought when we began we would get about 1,000. We've got 4,000, most of which will go up in St Ives. They're going to be decorating the town hall and Oliver Cromwell, and various shops will have internal ones. But I have insisted that because quite a number of ladies in Hilton have been knitting poppies, that we will have some, probably a couple of hundred or something. And one idea has been suggested that we might decorate the Lich Gate. It's only an idea, but it obviously needed your permission if it did happen that way.
So that'll be over the top and...
Well, maybe down either, actually coming down the
Yeah.
avenue of trees, maybe on either side on netting. We're quite expert on putting poppies on netting. There's 2 pieces that go on the town hall. Each one has got 1,000 poppies on it.
Wow.
So, and they're going up on the 23rd of October, so...
Well done.
Anybody got a problem with that?
No, that's great. Lovely.
Absolutely. So we would like the Parish Council support that.
Could you knit a few white ones, please?
It's a bit late now. We've got purple ones for the animals. I'll look into it.
And it's £60 for the donation to the British Legion for the reefs.
Sorry?
£60 for donation for the reefs is the normal figure, isn't it?
It is, thank you.
Yeah. So I propose that the Parish Council makes its normal donation of £60 towards the British Legion Marines, and through, we support the decoration of the Lichgate with the knitted poppies.
Yeah.
Sharon, second that. All those in favour? Very good.
Thank you very much indeed.
Oh yes, I've seen you've seen the flyer, so thank you, Margaret.
Okay.
I hope that the event itself is very successful.
Well, it's looking quite exciting. There's a certain gentleman here not very far away who's going to be one of the performers, and I won't mention any names or do any looking. If he's blushing,
She's deluded.
Oh, there's two, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, there's two.
Very good.
You don't know
Excellent.
that.
How are we doing? Item 5.3, request from clerk to pay £250 for SILAC qualification. Right, Joe. So this is part of this course you're doing.
It is.
So they've got you to sign up and then told you that an actual qualification is another £250.
Well, it's £300 for the actual training that's involved. It's quite a complex and very in-depth course. It's not easy. There's a lot of work involved. But yes, the actual qualification itself is £250.
It's a year long?
The course, well, no, the course is run 4 separate days between September and December. I have a year to complete the
qualification.
qualification.
And I knew there was a year bit in it. And that there is a recommendation that some of this, if you look at 5.4 as well, that there is a cost of some books and extra hours that Joe would have to put in to complete this course. Now the benefit of Joe, the beneficiaries of Joe doing the course is the Parish Council.
She'll know more than most of the rest of us.
Yes.
Well, it is, I mean, even attending one session, I was by no means alone, all the parish clerks there. I mean, we're all doing things that we're not doing quite right, or there's things that we should be doing that we're not doing, and it's kind of, unless you're doing these things, you never learn, and it's kind of just would give me a lot more confidence, and I think obviously would be of great benefit to the Parish Council.
So does that mean we could get a kind of summary of key points at some point along the way, just to keep the rest of us
I'm
on?
happy to share sort of the document, the sort of portfolio that I'm going to have to go through, so you can see what sort of things are on there.
That would be interesting.
I think we'd all be fascinated to see that, actually.
Yeah.
And then we'll feel sorry for you.
Yes. I felt sorry for myself on the first day. What am I doing?
Could you bring that around to us then?
Yeah, I'm having a look and just double check that I'm allowed to share it.
So over the year, the books and the hours will be cost the Parish Council about £150.
The books are £150. I mean, it's really difficult for me to say with hours, because obviously I only do 10 hours a week, and some weeks that goes and more, other weeks, I'm there or thereabouts, so it's difficult. I mean, today I spent most of the day doing, obviously preparing for the meeting, but that was just printing, but it's a lot of getting information, and because we're a small parish council as well, some of the documentation we don't have to hand, so I'm having to find. So, yeah, it's a bit difficult to say how many extra hours it's going to take me to do. Obviously, where I can, I will use the hours that I'm already paid for to do it, but it's very difficult to know exactly how many extra hours it's going to take.
This is a one-off spend, isn't it?
Yeah, and as I was saying at the beginning, I kind of think actually, for the time I've been here, I haven't really asked for very much in way of...
And your feedback is good questions about how the course is going.
Sorry?
As requested, you'll let us know
Yes.
how the course is going,
Yes.
if you're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah?
How do you prove the hours if they're unknown?
Approve the principle, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, obviously
That's
I'll
a
put that
difficult one,
too,
isn't
I'll
it?
put that, bring that authorised each month or
Question.
whatever. Yes.
Here's a question.
Yes.
So,
Your neighbour.
at work, my neighbour, at work, I sponsor people for things, and on the basis that generally it benefits the company, but that you can gain the qualification from it, and therefore I would expect them to input something from nothing on the back of the company, input something towards it. Is that something that could be done here for the extra hours?
Well, the thing is, I don't see how it's a benefit to me taking it anywhere else. It's not like, it's not a qualification that would, you know, that's going to get me a job in a different field or a different area or... Sorry?
There are many villages who need parish councils.
Yeah, you might be poached.
Or I'm happy to, I'd be happy to agree
do.
not to move on for a certain amount of time. You know, it's just, I'm kind of, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of think because it's a specific to this particular role, it's slightly different. I mean, I'm not going to, obviously, I won't put huge bills in.
How are the other people on your course, who obviously are all parish clerks?
Yeah.
Yeah? What are the rest of them doing with their parish council?
The same as me. They've requested in the same way as I have to be paid for hours they do. I mean, what their parish councils are agreeing, I don't know. We only discussed it at the... We've only had one conversation tomorrow. Yeah.
And how are you doing on the extra work, of course?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I mean, it's difficult at the moment because my laptop is not being very helpful, so it's taking me a little bit of extra time because I'm having to...
So when was the first session?
Beginning of September.
September, so we're now beginning of October.
Yeah.
Is there any extra hours that you would be looking for so far in the first month?
Probably, but I've had, so far I've only really spent part of 2 days doing it, so I have to work out what, it depends, like obviously I've spent quite a chunk of time today doing it, but I don't know what the rest of my week's going to become, so I've got to work off the
I
back
think
of
there was
this.
an indication of what
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Does the course give any idea of how much?
It does, but it depends on, I mean, obviously if you're in a full-time role as a clerk, you might be able to gain more hours to put towards this qualification if you've got more people working.
Yeah.
The parish council, obviously, you've got more backup, whereas I obviously don't have that. So it's quite, it depends on how many hours and size of the council, that type of thing, so it's a bit difficult to work out exactly.
So we're really doing 5.3 and 5.4 together. It's all about finances, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.5 is a different matter.
Come back to 5.3.
Yeah.
So the qualification, is that just for you to get certificate into the course, or is that additional learning?
Well, I mean, I am learning while I'm doing the qualification.
Yes, so that's right.
Yeah.
So the qualification is, it's not, I guess my question was, you do the course and you pay 250 to get a certificate, as some courses are, so it's not that.
No.
Right.
We've already approved the course.
Yeah, sorry. So the £300 was for the actual training, but there are people. Obviously, it's a bit like an MVQ really. So there's people marking it and that kind of thing. So I suppose you're paying for that at the end of the day.
So what if you don't pay for the qualification? You've done the training, so you've got
You
the
don't
knowledge,
have
but you
anything
just don't
to
have a certificate at the end of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I think I have to submit online.
So you can't do it unless you
Not
do
really,
this,
no.
basically. So I don't understand why they don't upfront tell you that that's part of it.
Yes.
Part of the course.
It's crazy, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's a bit of a-
Because that's quite a big chunk of money, isn't it? 250.
That's
It's
what I
almost
mean,
as
you
much
do
as
the course,
That's it,
and
you do it all,
and
just
then you say 250 quid.
Mm.
More market, Joe. Same thing happens.
But I mean, the thing is, obviously, you get the training on the day, but you then have to go away and do a lot of work on your own back, which is what. Yeah.
So thoughts? We've asked Joe to do the course.
Yeah.
We supported Joe to do the course.
It's a shame we didn't have this conversation of how was Joe actually going to do the study for the course
We
at the
didn't know
point.
at the time.
Yeah, well, we should have all thought, shouldn't we? You'd have to study when you do a course.
Absolutely.
No, I didn't realise how much work would be involved, to be honest. In school. Yeah.
But we could presumably agree
So I have to, for instance, it's all different learning objectives. I have to prove that I have an understanding of
the role.
Yeah, and so it's very in depth. I mean, for this, I have to understand the role of the clerk, the role of the parish council, the role of councillors, because lots of references back to legislation and learning.
So the rules and the legal stuff.
Yeah, and it's right.
RFO as well.
Sorry?
Does it include RFO?
Yes.
Yeah, which is responsible for that.
Yeah.
Responsible financial officer, which Joe is as well, so to give us some more guidance and training on the
I mean, at the moment, obviously, as things come up, I'm learning, but I kind of don't feel that I have a solid overview of everything, if you understand what I mean. So it's kind of like you're always thinking on your feet, which I just think it's given me a lot more confidence and know where I can find information. Yeah, yeah.
Or alternatively, you can get a clerk that costs £40 an hour.
Which is what we did pay initially, or you did pay initially.
Yeah.
That was horrendous.
It's not good,
No.
So it's the idea that we approve the 250 and the books, and then every month Joe will put forward how many hours she's
Yeah.
done.
I mean, obviously.
I will be happy to.
But what happens if we don't agree with the number of hours you've done? We should
Well,
have got to
the thing is
agree
that
it.
she's on 10 hours now. We have no proof that she does 10 hours a week. It's all trust.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
So would you be happy
the
to?
amount of times that she's always on the phone doing it, I'm happy.
Would you be happy to think of, say, an hour a week?
Well, I would just wait till the bills come in and say, why was this one so more than last time? She said, because I did this. And some weeks, some months, there'll be no extra spend because it's been a quiet month.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree with Graham more. I think a limited to an hour. I mean, it took me a long time today to do what I did, but as I say, I mean, on a quieter week, so this week was probably going to be busy because I've got a lot to do following the meeting, but other weeks where it's quieter, I can put more time into. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is that everybody happy with that? Yes. Right.
So we're paying for the two specifics and month by month.
So the proposal is that the Parish Council will pay the £250 fee for select qualification and the authorised to spend up to £150 for books.
It might not be that much. I know
Yeah.
one of the books I need £73, right? But which at the Parish Council we should actually update every time it's a new edition anyway, which I didn't realise. So I'll save us
And
money.
it's a huge cost. Once you stick the local council mayor in front of it, it will just take you for a ride. So that's the first two things to approve. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I propose that.
I'll have to second it.
Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody? No, that's everybody. And then the next bit is to do about the extra hours, and how would you like to word that proposal?
The clerk will submit a hours as payments to
For
the.
consideration. We can review it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Happy
It
with that?
goes over December and maybe August when we haven't got
Yeah,
a
it's a
meeting.
bit quieter, yeah.
You'll be able
I
to
mean, I hope,
do more
like Graham
study
said,
in
that
those
you
months.
sort of trust me and I'm not going to kind of come back every month with a huge extra bill.
Once we've got the pavilion done, we can see you sitting there.
Okay, so Joe, there you go. Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, is what it's basically saying, it's a time sheet.
Yes.
To monitor the hours that you're putting into that, please.
That's good. That'll probably help you, Joe, as well, actually, just to write it down.
It's actually, when Peter just said hours, I was thinking, I don't know how many hours I've done on that today.
Yeah.
We'll make yeah.
Right, everybody happy with that?
Yes.
Item 5.5 is slightly different because it's a membership renewal for the Society of Local Council Clerks. Council Clerks? Of which Joe is a member on behalf of Hilton Parish Council. The previous fee is about £103, £105.
Yeah.
And it's gone up to £115. I propose that we How's that spend?
Second.
All those in favour? Because they are support network to local clerks. 5.6. So Joe's been having trouble with the Parish Council laptop, which was bought in about 2010, 2011? Certainly before 2013. And you have been looking at some laptops.
I wonder if we take advantage of having a look at the existing one first. It's amazing that we can do it.
Well, Justo's had a look at it. My brother works in IT and he's had a look at it. I'm not saying that we don't do that, but it is causing me quite a lot.
I think if it's that old, they have a sell-by date. Really, they do.
It comes up every day with problems with memory. As I say, at the moment I can't connect to the internet, so I'm having to do my work on it, download it onto a memory stick, upload it onto my personal laptops to send anything off.
So on that basis, so where are we, 2018? So let's say it was bought in 2013, for argument's sake. It's £100 a year. Depreciation. So £100 a year cost, and it was before 2013. So it was bought in, I think it was 2011, 2012. So you're talking £75 a year in cost of a laptop.
And when you talk about £500 spend, sorry, I haven't gone to your quotes, is that including the VAT of 500? So we can claim that back, can't we, as a parish council?
Well, I imagine so. I mean, I've talked to John Lewis and PC World and Harry, so I assume their prices are
including that. So we've got 20% that you can claim back through the account. So it's starting to go a bit cheaper.
Is there any discount going through, say, HDC or, you know?
They don't seem to offer a councillors come to us for your cheap.
They don't want the responsibility.
For your cheap IT. So what would be your preferred?
Well, I spoke to a really good guy at John Lewis, who was really, really helpful. His kind of recommendation was the top one because it has the HDD and the SSD drive.
3-year warranty.
Yeah, there's some extra warranty on them at the moment.
That's an ASUS.
Yeah.
S53
Yeah, he was saying it was very good, mate.
Is there any specialists here in the Parish Council?
I just speak to
It's not running complex software, isn't it?
No, I don't know, it doesn't, but I suppose because if it's on point with the price of the others, it's just
Yeah. I think that's the key. I don't think there's, from a spec point of view.
May I say something, Chair?
Yes, Margaret, please do.
I have had a lot of dealings with Antex. They have a base in St Ives and St Neots. And Cambridge now, actually. They bought another one. And they are very expert, very helpful, and it's very helpful to have somebody very local if you have a question or a query. I can totally recommend them.
Thank you.
So that might be an avenue that you could look at and tell them what you want.
I've been to that as well.
Very good. And if you bought the ASUS, it would have the software on it that you need?
I assume so. I will need to double check that.
You do, but you just need to make sure.
Yeah.
Outlook, is it? Do you use Outlook?
I use Gmail.
Again, I'm guessing, from a hard drive point of view, it's obviously half the size, but the bottom two, but I'm guessing you don't put it very much anyway.
Teddy bear of drive.
The hard drive is obviously half the size on the top one and the bottom two. So I'm guessing
right,
you don't use a lot of hard
yeah.
drive really.
Yeah.
And a solid state drive is exactly the same except for more reliable. There's no moving parts.
Sorry, say that again.
It wasn't
The solid state drive, the SSD.
Oh, right.
I wasn't sure with the RAM on the second last one, whether how much difference that makes.
Yeah, okay, for it.
Yeah, tablet, full.
Just in it,
Yeah, and I used as I say, my brother works in IT, so I used him for advice as well. So.
Would it be advisable just to agree up to a certain amount, and then you can just
Well, that's what
pick
that's
his
what
brother's
why it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the well, actually, there is one that goes over that, but I can't see anything on that warrants spending the extra money.
Isn't that bottom one, then you're getting more than the top one?
I was just thinking that.
They don't give you any warranty with that.
They might if you go directly.
I must admit, I mean, speaking to the two companies, I got a lot more. I felt a lot more confident with John Lewis, and I felt that PC were just trying to sell me something, whereas the guy from John Lewis actually talked me through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah, other shops are available.
With the Dell one, you can actually ring Dell direct, but I bet your brother would know that.
Yeah. I mean,
Because if
actually,
you go to Dell direct, you usually get a better deal.
right, yeah.
And they do give you
And
one.
they'll probably give them warranty.
Yeah, they do.
So, are you happy with the proposal that we spend up to a figure of £500 on a new laptop? Joe?
Including that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we get 20% back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to get £100 back.
Peter, quick question. Just to clarify, software could be an expense. Microsoft now charge an annual fee for Microsoft Office, so you want to make sure that's included in that. That can be 100 quid or so per year.
I think you can still get lifetime.
You can, yeah, but it's still 100 quid or so. It's just that's checking the software element.
Thank you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, give it a chat. Have a shop around.
Yeah.
Had a shop
I
around.
have had a shop
So,
around.
such a suggestion, could you take old laptop to one of these local companies, and because a lot of software you can transfer to a new computer as long as you take it old, your licence is transferable. There might be some particular web shops might be more encouraged to copy everything for you to renew.
What we're going to say, I mean, these prices, I'm assuming, don't include software because Microsoft is normally extra when you buy. It's not very many. I don't remember any of them saying that they came with Microsoft. So that's going to be a consideration. I mean, I can speak to them and see if I can get any.
Get it transferred. We've
Is it
got a
worth it?
licensed software.
What are you currently using the software?
Yeah,
So I mean, should we-
okay, so we can transfer. Is it worth it?
This is the kind of expertise that Antex have got.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see what can be got. Because I would have thought if we had already purchased software, you could use it. on.
7 years old.
Yeah. The local, although my preference would be for the John Lewis.
Leave it for free, wouldn't it?
I would suggest just investigating a little bit further.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you know that if you've got a problem, they will sort it
Yeah.
out. And because they are very good in that respect, and that's my advertising over. But have a word with the local people and see what they do, specifically around the software.
Yeah.
So I'm proposing that the Parish Council agree that we spend up to £500 on a new laptop. Joe, if there should be any thing that's different to that regarding software costs, it needs to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So there's a proposal.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favour? Thank you. We need Jo to be able to do her job. Right, winter gritting volunteers. This is the last
Peanut coffee.
5.7.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't print off the All right, so there is a years ago, Cambridge County Council delegated this responsibility out of the County Council to the local communities who took it on. And since then, there have been a number of volunteers each year who have come forward and agreed to do the gritting. I understand that volunteers aren't doing that anymore. So the question is, we need to find, or we need to ask the parishioners and the council if anybody would be prepared to, one, take on the responsibility of organising the gritting, and two, find out if there's anybody else within the village who would like to take on that responsibility. I believe.
I have it to be a gritter, and I can ask the volunteers if they want to be gritter.
Thank you. Because you have got the group, so ask away. Any comments?
Keen on organising it.
Any comments?
It's challenging people to commit, because I'm happily volunteer, but in reality,
Yeah.
not in the country, let alone in the village.
Yeah. That's
Peter,
understood.
Okay. I know, I don't really want to interrupt you, but I will do. Yeah. Hat are quite willing to take this on for you, if you want us to take it off your hands. And Andy's got experience in running it, and he's...
I thought Andy was stepping down from it.
Well,
I'm a volunteer. I've already put my form forward for volunteering.
So, I mean, we're quite happy to take it on for you and do it if that's what you would wish. But that's entirely up to the council to decide.
Thanks, Ken. Always helpful to know. So, you've heard that offer.
Sounds good to me.
The office
Sounds
should be
perfect.
accepted, to be honest.
Thank you very much.
When we need additional help to advertising it for other people to come forward, because I'm assuming that it's not
So Anne
a
will
great number of...
email her
Yeah.
volunteer list
Okay.
and ask if there are any other people who would like to come forward. Sorry?
Sorry, on the website as well, if it could.
Yeah, put something on the website.
I think you'll probably have to inform the council that who contact, otherwise when the warnings come out, they'll come out to the wrong people.
Yes, you want the warnings to come direct.
Yeah.
Might be handy to have something on the notice boards as well, because I know I spent nearly a whole day last year trying to get hold of somebody to remember that, Joe, when it was like a skating rink down here past the village, and about 2 cars ended up in that pond. So it's just knowing who to ring when, you know, when there is a hazard and there's been a sudden...
This is gritting paths only, unfortunately, Sharon.
Oh, right, sorry,
Yeah,
not
Nostrum
road.
Roads.
And there's a designated area of
footpaths.
which Cambridgeshire County Council.
And it's
Sorry,
worth
sorry.
flagging that road up again with Cambridge County Council then.
So it's
on there.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Is that something you
walking?
could do as a club?
Yeah.
Because last year it's not on their Britain rota, or what you call it, plan. So this road is treacherous. Yes, from the ford up to that sharp bend to where the marquee is, it's really dangerous.
For the pass, do you have to have a specific, this is a stupid question, but like training, or does that anyone
get trained?
You have to be trained, so we can't just have like a group of a load of names that every time there's an alert goes out, we can send an email saying who's available tonight to go and something like that.
The
You have
training
to
is
register as a
easy.
volunteer
It's pretty
because you might be able
straightforward
to get a high visibility long sleeve waistcoat, gloves, eye protection, snow shovel or a hand push spread book. Those.
But you have to sign so that there's the 20-page booklet until you understand.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we had like a big wide pool of people, but not, they couldn't commit to doing it every time there was a gritting alert, but there was a pool of people, emails out every time, then that's
These
all.
guys,
Those that volunteer have to go through training,
Yeah, that's
get their PPE equipment, and then that's an health and safety requirement. But once they are, and then the road
You might get a talk.
That's it, and you get your equipment, and they tell you not to slip over and stuff, don't walk in the road. But then once you're on the list, when they send the call out, the coordinator contacts everybody that has been trained and hopefully get half a dozen people to push the gritter around. Ian Bates said he'd volunteer again as well. He was on the road to last time. He came out with us. But you do need about probably 8 or 10 people, because the likelihood of having people available on the night when it is
We'll sort that out.
yeah.
Isn't always possible, is it? So Anne will email her volunteers and see the people willing to come forward. Then let us know. Thank you. Item 6.1 is authorised payment of any bills including half salary. So bills there are grass cutting.
Yeah, can I just add, because it only came in this afternoon, there was an extra one for JSC, another £40 for out of field cricket
Right, so
pitch.
we've got
So it's two.
the monthly contract of £660 and then 2 items of £40 for grass cutting of the cricket pitch. And we have KM Lightning, which is the street light maintenance for the quarter 1st of October to 31st of December, £153.82. Then there's some emergency work undertaken on the walnuts by the Maze of £110. Ecotricity, we've gone back to putting a direct debit in.
Yeah.
£8.37 and £8.54, which covers the period from the 25th of June to the 24th of August. The £300 that was authorised for Joe to attend the training sessions. A book of £14.99. Then the PKF Little John is the external audit fee, where it says £240. That is actually £200 plus VAT. So that will be £200 dead. Then we've got the SLC membership fee, which we've discussed this evening, £115. The qualification fee of £250, which we've discussed. The fireworks is £1,749.15, but I believe that includes that as well.
Yeah.
So that'd be less. HDC £117 we paid. Hilton Methodist Church, the use of the church between the 1st of July 2017 and the 31st of August 2018, £60, and the September salary of the clerk of £584.13. I propose that we make those payments. It is usually the bit when I say I propose that I make with the Parish Council makes those payments, and I just sit.
Someone says I'll second it.
Thank you very much. All those in favour? Fabulous. Right. The next item on the agenda is Precept. So the Precept comes up every year, strangely. And the form normally has to get submitted by the 10th of December. That's right?
Yeah, I think it might, it's around that then.
Yeah. And so the Parish Council are proposing, or the Finance Committee are proposing, the Parish Council recommends that the Precept be increased by 1.9% in the current, the next financial year, by £530, taking the Precept up to £28,620. Now, this is not a request to agree that. This is a request for you to consider this. It will be on the agenda next month, November. Please come back with any comments or questions that you have for that meeting. Because it's 10 o'clock. So, so if you have any queries or questions, please send them through to Joe, and the Finance Committee will come back with answers for you. 6.3 is the audit. We've had that return from the external auditor, and that hence the bill of £240. We have to have internal and external auditors. £200 goes to the internal auditor, £200 goes to the external auditor. The thing has been signed off, and Jo has some notices that she has to post.
Yep.
6.4 is monies received.
Yes. That's
£5 for a solar
yeah,
map.
and also the money from the easement, which was the money from Oak Tree Farm
Oh, yes. Licence.
Licence, yes.
No, yes. Thank you very much. How much was that?
£41.
Sorry, what was that? £1 pay
Sorry.
41 quid?
Yes, for
A licence
the
rather
licence.
than oh, I know. This is,
Licence for what?
yes, this is, no, this is, yes. This is, there are some agreements around the green where an amount of £1 is payable on an annual basis. There was a place down the road where the amount was 50p a year, and when property transactions take place, quite rightly solicitors insist that these things are brought up to date and settled. So that was, it was agreed that £41 was the sum due for that.
I still don't
I've
understand.
got a copy that I don't understand what's for.
Access across the group.
Accessing, right. So
This
like the
has
same.
gone back for many,
Years and years and
many
years.
years.
And then there's annually.
So no one's paid it every year, so now they're paying the £41 to cover the last 41 years, isn't it?
Not quite. It's to make sure that there are no questions when, to sort out when the property exchanges hands. All at different times, different ways. Item 7 is council's items, information only, no discussion, no decisions. Sharon, any councillors' items?
No.
Ian?
No, thank you.
No? Rob, no? Graham?
I've got one.
Go on.
To Canberra. There's a piece of guttering that had been broken and the dam pipe wasn't there. And I was going to mend it, but someone else has mended it. So there's a kind elf out there who's put some guttering back, so thank you.
Oh.
There it was.
The guttering where?
The pavilion.
Oh,
Sorry, did I not say?
no!
I didn't write the speech.
Around the garden,
You discussed it. It was discussed.
Yes,
It was
the
about
pavilion- the pavilion guttering had been vandalised, but it's now being put back, so it's great.
consider it vandalism.
Joe? No, next meeting date would be, it would be the 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Yeah, after the fireworks, yeah, it's all fair.
Yeah, Monday the 5th. Remember.
Been naughty for us already.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. Meeting closed.